Now, keep in mind, I know before anybody other than the judges who's going to win.
I know.
And I see Jay Cutler, and I'm like, holy shit, this place is going to go nuts.
Hey everyone, Tony Doherty here for the Relentless Momentum podcast, and I've got a very special guest with me today, the voice of bodybuilding, a really good mate of mine all the way from the USA, Bob Cicherillo. Hey Bob.
Tony, great to be here finally after all these years.
I mean, how long we've been talking about getting you to come and check out Doherty's gym, come to Australia, come to Melbourne, and everything just kind of lined up when we least expected it, right?
Well, and I got to say this right off the bat. You've invited me here for 10, 15 years. I don't know what it's been. And every time I would decline, it's like, it's too long of a trip, Tony, you know. And it's a funny thing because 10 years ago, I wasn't really into international travel as much. I hated the idea of a long flight. The irony now is that every flight I take now is international with Panada, with other business ventures, and we're finally able to get out here. But I always got to give you credit, Tone, because you always said that you would invite me out. You said, I'd love to have you host a show, and you know, obviously you host shows. Yeah. And but I've always taken it as a deep sign of respect. You've always said, I will not give the microphone to anybody except for you. I've always appreciated that.
Yeah, I mean, from day one, you know, as the Arnold got bigger and bigger, and, you know, you've seen now I'm emceeing amateurs, and I do like 5 weeks in a row leading into it. When we're doing the Arnold, I'm like, you know, take me a little pressure off me. I could be more like the host and have you there introducing all the athletes doing what you do. And I sincerely said, I said, Bob, you're the only person I would have, and you're the only person I would share a microphone with, and you're the only MC that I kind of rated in the world. You know, there's a lot of guys trying to do what we do. And, you know, my dream was always to MC an Arnold Classic and to MC an Olympia one day. But you got that gig.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting the Arnold Classic one. You know, I waited like 25 years for a shot at that, you know, because they had Lonnie Teeper.
Yeah, that's
and we were sitting there going, oh, God, really? I think I can up the game as far as entertainment goes. I mean, he was great at a time, you know, but that was always my my thing as an MC, because I love it like you do, and, you know, only a few people got that gift of being able to read the temperature of the room and understand. Yeah. And you do it so well, because when you start to lose the people, you build them a bit up, or they get sad, you give them a joke.
I don't think people realize there's a difference. You can be a host, or you can be a master of ceremonies, an MC. Yeah. But there's a difference. Lonnie was a great host. Very matter of fact, you know, he would put information out there, and you know, did a nice proper job of introducing the athletes. An MC is a little bit different. Where you're more of an entertainer. Yeah. You know, there's a little bit of, you know, got a few ha-has in there if you can get them. But, you know, but you're juggling. You're juggling. People don't know, you know, but most people don't know that there's 10 things going on at any time when you're up on stage, especially the big shows. You're doing an Arnold, you're doing an Olympia, you know, show of that caliber. You have a lot on your plate, and I think people think, like, first of all, they think there's a teleprompter, which I always thought was funny. Yeah. Because, you know, there's no teleprompter. No, nothing is set up. We have literally a list of the order of the show, and that's pretty much about it. There's nothing there except for stats and, you know, where you are and that type of thing. You have to fill in the blanks on everything else, but you have to be cognizant of the athletes, the judges, the photographers, the run of the show, the timing of the show,
the audience,
the
people in the front, the people at the back,
backstage crew. Right. All this is going on. You're juggling 10 different balls up there.
You know, Bob, I always describe it as on an MC, we're the ringmaster.
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy.
You know, there's 10 moving parts at any one time, and you've got to make it look like there's not. You've got to make it seamless. And this is credit to you. And this is what people don't see. I mean, I know at the Olympia now you have an earpiece. Sure. And I did all the Arnold Australias without one. It was only when I did the first one in Columbus, Ohio in 2019. That I had an earpiece. Yeah. I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird. But then they go, something's just happened backstage. You know, you got to kill 5 minutes. You know, and I've seen you get shit about that. I've got shit about that. Now that happens in an instant. Yeah. So you go to the sponsors first. You say, well, you know, look, I haven't had a chance to thank all of our above line sponsors. You saw me do it yesterday when I was waiting for a result. And there's that. And then something else goes wrong. And then you know, someone needs some rehydration. Going to be another 30 seconds coming out. Now, you're the only person in the whole room that knows that.
That's right.
When you win is when nobody even picks it. They go,
that's the art. Like you say, that you're the ringmaster, you're a magician, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
The art is to disguise it so that nobody... Listen, there are things that go wrong with every show. I don't care what show you've ever done.
Yeah.
They're never perfect. There's too many moving pieces. Like you say, it's an athlete that's delayed. They can't find somebody. You got to kill 2-3 minutes, whatever. Most people don't know that there are 6 commercial breaks during the Olympia. Now, nobody knows that because we don't show them at the Olympia.
Yeah.
So that means in that earpiece, I get the little, okay, Bob, going to commercial. Now you're talking as this is going on. Again, this is the art that people don't know. You got somebody in your ear as you're speaking, which can really mess you up if you're not experienced with it. So somebody's in my ear saying, okay, going to commercial in, 10, 9, 8, 7, and you're wrapping up whatever you're saying, and go. Now it's up to you. So you have to start fresh from that point because the people at home are seeing a commercial. They're not seeing it in the live audience.
Right.
So I'll be finishing up saying something like, all right, we just saw our top 10 ladies in our figure competition. We'll be seeing them back a little bit later in the program as the judges are compiling the scores. But right now, boom, like there's a break there.
Right, and you're live again to a complete live audience.
Correct.
Not to the team.
So,
I know.
So there's a natural break there where the commercial's going to play. Again, they ain't seeing it there. They're just watching you. So then you'll break into something. Folks, back in 1965, it was Joe Weider that first came up with the Olympia competition, and history was born at that moment with the great,
fun fact.
Larry Scott,
Yeah, and I remember when I first did the Arnold Columbus, and they didn't tell me there was going to be this commercial break coming up, and they're like, Sean's in my ear, he's like, oh, you got to kill 2 minutes, live feed stopped, you're live, think of something. I'm like,
something.
And of course, here's a fun fact. So when I first got that gig after waiting all this time, they gave me all these notes, like pages and pages and pages of notes, because the guy that'd done it before, he'd love to say, yeah, Bob Cicherillo's from Rochester, New York. He won junior Mr. Rochester when he was 17. Then he went to the US Nationals. And Lonnie do all that. I'm like, I prefer to eat rocks. So I threw away the script.
Yeah, I did the
first
same.
one, no, you can't do that. I go, well, you have to go get it out of the bin because I already trashed it. So, Sean, just give me a list of the names of the competitors. I'll do the rest. I'm like, next competitor's originally from Carousel, We saw him break out. He won the Arnold in Australia, and he's back here to defend himself. Rolly Winkler, or whatever, and I try and bring that excitement, enthusiasm to it. And you can't do that if you're reading off a script.
No,
because it's like,
it sounds very rehearsed, right? And it's boring. Let's face it, most people aren't that into.
Right, so
I got rid of that years ago.
You're an MC, you're a ringmaster, and you're a fucking entertainer. And this is what people don't understand. We're in the at the top of your game in this. We're in the entertainment business. And I was saying to you at lunch, what I do with Amateur Bodybuilding Australia, which I'm glad you've got to see, is I call it pure bodybuilding entertainment. Because if someone gets bored, or you got breaks in between divisions, or you're just waffling on about shit, people are never going to come again. And at a professional level at Olympia, it's even more pressure because you've got them for a captive time, you've got so many divisions to get through, and you've got the commercial breaks, you've got someone yelling at you, then you might have an Arnold or a Jake, whoever owns the business, just sideswipe everything. And, Arnold's classic for that. He'll just walk on.
Oh, I've been a victim of a few of those at the Olympia where we had like all the champions there from all the years, and Arnold was supposed to come, but he ended up coming last. So there was a lot of improvisation.
Yeah.
There we go. And we speak for a living. Yeah. That goes with that. But there's a few keys to being a good MC is what I would consider. One is it's not about you. You're up there to highlight the athletes, the show itself, the run of the show and all that. But it's not about you. And I've seen other people, won't name any names, but they tend to make it about them. And that's a huge mistake. You got to put the athletes up on a pedestal, and you got to realize your place in all that. Two, the worst MCs in the world are radio guys.
Yeah.
Because radio guys think they got to fill in time. Because silence on the radio is death. And that's what they're used to. So at a bodybuilding show, you got to know there's a time to talk, there's a time to shut up. And sometimes you don't need to fill every, there can be a little bit of silence here. It's not the worst thing in the world. But they don't do that. They just talk.
The problem too with silence is, like, sometimes I'll be waiting for results to come through, and I can see, they send them to me on WhatsApp. I can see they're like 20 seconds away. I'm not going to start to tell a story now because then it's going to come in the middle of the story.
Well, again, you're just filling in.
I'm fucking waffling on for nothing. What's 20 seconds?
Look, like I say, listen, I have no problem with standing there for a minute, letting it's just it's a natural part of the game.
Yeah, and look, you make it look easy now, but obviously, it's been a long apprenticeship. We all get better at our craft, and as the Olympias become more entertainment with social media, and everyone's watching, everyone's waiting for you to fuck up. Just say, go, Bob hesitated. Bob didn't know what to say when they cut the live feed because he wasn't warned. Bob this, and then it's easy. Then it might be a Jake or an Arnold, or one of the owners goes, "What are you doing up there waffling on?" Yeah. And I'm like, oh God.
Yeah, they have no idea.
No idea.
And listen, and if you're good at your craft, you're going to take the heat sometimes for stuff that wasn't your fault.
You have to.
And I've done it many, many times. You know, you're going to, you know, make it into a joke or, you know, make it light out of it.
Yeah.
You know, but listen, I've been given the wrong results. You know, that Steve Harvey moment up there where you're announcing the wrong person.
Yeah.
Again, it wasn't my fault. Somebody handed me the piece of paper that had it reversed. A lot of times you can catch stuff, and you know this, Tony. I'm always 2-3 pages ahead.
Yep.
If anybody ever watches me on stage, you know, I'll throw it, you know, somebody comes out to pose. I'm over here on the side and I'm flipping papers. And they say, well, you know, what are you doing? I'm looking for mistakes. I'm looking for things that don't make sense. I'm looking for things that aren't right. So I can get to somebody to say, hey, this ain't going to work. Or, hey, can you look at this? Because this guy, especially at the amateur stuff, this guy just beat this other guy in the other class. Oh, you know, you know, it's like, oh, yeah. So you try to get ahead of the game to minimize any mistakes or things that don't look, you know, right. But sometimes you got to take it on the chin. I mean, again, things have happened where I'm like, oh, hey, sorry about that, folks. Hey, it's my first show. You know, the whole thing. But it wasn't my fault, you know. But,
I get away with a little bit more here because Australians are irreverent. So, yeah, something will go wrong on my show. I go, sorry, everyone, I fucked it up. And everyone laughs. I get some gag time out of that. Everyone, this funny guy. I go,
you guys are a little more liberal with that. I can't really do that at the Olympia stage.
No, I don't do it at the big shows.
But this is,
you know, sometimes you can turn that into a little humour. You know what?
Sure, of course you can.
You know, I'm dyslexic and I fucked up. I would just make a little joke about myself.
Well, this would be 20 years this year.
Well, I was going to say, this is your 20th one. So tell me about the first one. How did it come about? I mean, what I want to do is, what we do with this podcast is people tell their stories. I want to hear stuff that no one's heard because no one asked you, Bob.
They never asked me.
Everyone's too busy trying to fucking find a hole in your story or, oh, Bob's lame or he told that joke last year.
I get a lot of petitions against me, Tommy. Yeah, so I get it's.
You know, if you're going to petition to get anyone else there at the Olympia, it's me, and I'm doing it with him. All right, get it right, you fuckwits.
So first year, but I got to go back 2 years before that.
Okay, go.
So my first actual year on the microphone was 2006. That's why this year's 20. But 04 and 05, I was doing the press conference. Also in 04 and 05, so I did one with Triple H. A lot of people remember that. They had a lot of the wrestlers involved back then. I've been up there with Stone Cold, Triple H, The Rock. I mean, you know, you name it. We've had them. Batista, you know, a lot of the superstars. But I just wanted my chance. Like I was dying to get the microphone because that era, and you've been around long enough to remember, a lot of people weren't. There were some major screw-ups in that 3-4 years where they had like Dana Carvey was up there, like it was Sinbad or Mike Adam Lee and somebody else, and it was a big problem. Yeah. Like there was just moments where it went off the rails.
They're trying to get like actors and radio guys.
Well, they don't see, but the problem is they don't know our industry. And I had done emceeing at local levels, and started in Rochester, of course, and it went and it started to expand. So by the time I get to there, I mean, I've done it for some years, and I'm begging for the microphone because I've done other big shows, but obviously never the Olympia. So at the time, I'm a Weeder athlete. I'm in with that. I'm a pro. Done the emceeing, and I'm begging Robin Chang, who was putting and Peter McGuff, God bless him.
Yeah, loved him.
Peter was one of the best, man. But miss him every day. But I'm begging these guys, put me in, coach. I can do this, you know. So I did the 2 years of kind of working my way in there.
Doing the press conferences.
Yeah. And those were great. I mean, they were entertaining. We made it more fun.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like the old stoic stuff with Wayne DeMille up there, you know. And
everyone in a suit.
Half the questions going to him. See, again, there was a guy making it all about him when they should have been talking about the athletes. Yeah. But finally, I get my chance, 06. They say, hey, we're going to, give you a chance. We think you got what it took. We like what you do, blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. So they put me and my buddy Sean Ray up there because they were doing the two MCs, which I never really understood. I always thought it was a little awkward or odd.
Especially back then because it was like 3 divisions.
You've done it with other people. Yeah. It's weird because you have to include the other guy. Otherwise, they're just kind of standing there.
Yeah.
But me and Sean did the first 2, 2006, 2007. Then they put me on my own ever since then. But the first one was 06, which was iconic because it was Jay Cutler. Who finally got the nod over Ronnie Coleman.
Yeah, of course.
And it was, to this day, I have never felt a response. And when I say felt, I mean felt because you could feel the percussion. When I announced that it was Jay Cutler, and by the way, I was the guy who reversed it where I announced the winner. Of course, I would announce it as in Olympia traditional. Traditionally, they never did that. They would announce the second place guy, and then, I guess this guy wins.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was stupid because I'm like, well, shouldn't you hear like your name announced as the winner? Like, wouldn't that give some holy shit, like what's going to go on here type of thing. So I ran it by Robin, and he says, I like it. Yeah, go ahead, do it. And that's what I did, So, let's get both guys in the center. I'm now going to announce, the next name you hear will be, the 2006 Mr. Olympia, the whole thing. Jay
And you
Cutler.
got to say, and new.
Yeah, I started to incorporate that. Yeah. I don't even think I was at the and new stage at that point. Right. I was just, but I get the paper. Now, keep in mind, I know before anybody other than the judges who's going to win. And I see Jay Cutler, and I'm like, holy shit, this place is going to go nuts.
The next name you hear will be the winner of the 2006 Mr. Olympia. You can bring the Olympia gold medal, the Sandow statue, and a check for $155,000 to the 2006 Mr. Olympia, Jay Cutler!
Jay's from Vegas, not from, but he lives there. It's like Vegas' favorite son. Ronnie had been the champ now.
8 years straight.
8 years, yeah. I mean, and you can tell, even though people loved Ronnie, if you go back to that era, and you'll remember this, the last 3 Olympias in particular, people liked him, but there was kind of a half that audience that was not, like...
It's funny, because 2003, I still say that was the best bodybuilder I've ever... Whatever he did that year, no one's done it since. He would have won every Olympia since. But then 2005, he just won, and I had him here guest posing afterwards. And I can tell you, he knew. He wasn't going to get any better.
You could see some chinks in the armor. Listen, a few things, couple of injuries, his back. You could see one side was fading a little bit. The midsection, but keep in mind, he's getting a little bit older at this point. Great champion, of course. We all love Ronnie. But when I announced Jay Cutler's the winner, that audience, it felt, Tony, like they came forward like 20 feet.
Like a tsunami.
You could feel the percussion in your chest. And boom, the music hit, and the rest is history. But that, to me, still part of it, I'm sure, because it was the first time I had been on the Olympia stage in that capacity. And secondly, that it was such an iconic moment.
Like, what a start, right?
Right? Here's Jay Cutler.
The unbeatable Mr. Olympia. And then just got beat.
And then every year after that just had its own themes, And of course, we've had, the addition of different divisions, with Classic coming in, the 212 coming in, which originally the 210, then the 202, and then finally settled in at 212. Women's physique came in. Women's bodybuilding was in, then it was out, now it's back in. But every year it just seemed to have its own theme. 07, me and Sean again, Jay Cutler defending the title, boom, he defends the title. People loved it. And all of a sudden we get to 08. Well, guess what?
Dexter.
Here comes Dexter Jackson, right? So now I get to say, and new, right? And,
And Dexter was always in shape. Like, he was just waiting for someone to trip up. Like, Dexter was always sharp. And if someone was going to be out of shape, he's sitting there messing with.
Even though he was a great champion, Tony, as you know, and a great Arnold Classic champion, and he's been very candid in interviews over the years, he never, ever thought he would be Mr. Olympia. He thought, listen, I can contend, but listen, I'm not one of the bigger guys. I got Jay, I got this guy, I got Ronnie, I got, he didn't think he would ever win. I mean, he did. He caught, Dexter was Mr. Consistent every year.
Yeah, but that's what he did. Okay, he didn't think he could win because, you know what? I'll be in fucking unbelievable shape just in case. And then I can win, just in case someone slips. And Dexter, man, he was so sharp that year. Jay was a little off.
You talk about a moment of shock. If you go back to that video, you could see it on his face. He wasn't expecting his name to be called. He just wasn't.
And you're the first to know.
And I'm looking again.
It's the coolest job in the world. People don't get that. I love it. I'm like,
so now we get that moment of Dexter Jackson. And now by this time, I'm on my own. Nothing against Sean. Love Sean. We go way back. Still should have beat him at the Teen Nationals in '85. I'm still pissed about it.
We'll get to that.
We'll get into that later. But I got a bone to pick with those judges.
Yes.
And it gives him bragging rights for life. That's the worst part with Sean. Still, I got to hear it. But they liked me on my own because it was a better cadence, and Sean doesn't have my chops. So, I mean, you get my intro, and then Sean, they're two
I like
different.
Sean, and I had him do a couple of amateur Arnolds, but he's not an entertainer.
Admittedly, he doesn't consider himself an MC.
No.
He really doesn't. I mean, he'll do it. But he does. He's like, look, I'm not an MC. You're an MC, But they gave it to me on my own, and I'm like, great.
Right. So back to it. So we're at 208 Dexter.
09, here we go. Right. Well, Dexter to defend. Boom. Here comes Jay, and becomes the first Olympian ever to reclaim the title. So that was a great, but every year you could
that was the crazy Jay with the quad stomp.
Oh, the quad stomp.
Remember, like he it's a little bit like I think in 2003 when Ronnie he got beaten at that GNC show. He nearly got beaten by Gunter at the Olympia. He'd taken his foot off the gas. He's done a bit of a Mike Tyson. Like, I don't need to train to beat these guys without. 2003, he's like, that's never going to happen again. Well, I think that was Jay.
Well,
2009.
yeah.
Jay's like, that's mine. I'm coming back. I'm going to do some shit there that nobody's ever seen. Well, we're looking at that picture in the gym before of him in 2009.
Well, and then you just keep. I mean, we could just keep going. I mean, you go through, and
So many
now it's
stories.
Jay. Now it's Jay. Now here comes Phil. And Phil was like the understudy of Jay. Now you could see Phil coming a mile away. If you know bodies, you know physiques. You could see Phil Heath coming.
Yeah.
Honestly, you can make a case, and I've said this on other podcasts and different things, even in the magazines as we go far back.
Yeah.
Remember the magazines, Tony?
I lived for them.
Right. You could make an argument, you could make a case that Phil should have 9. And I think it's a valid argument that's been put out there, and I've kind of chronicled it in the thing. But, the first, the year before he wins, you can make a case that he wins against Jay. And even Jay has said, I kind of thought he had me, but hey, it went my way. I'm not complaining.
Well, fun fact, we had him out here in Australia right after that. It was his first international guest posing tour, and I had this second place in the Mr. Olympia out of nowhere guy. And I'm like, you're going to win next year. And he's like, and Phil, he was kind of cocky.
Sure,
he's
of
like,
course. Oh, yeah. Listen, Phil knew he had it going on. He was on the right path, the right direction, and he was in the right place at the right time. But you could make a case for the year before he wins. Then, of course, he goes on a tear. Never really challenged. I mean, Kai was a good bodybuilder, a great bodybuilder, but
there was
Phil
one
always
year
had
there.
his number.
There was that 1 year. Was it like 2012? I think.
No, it wasn't 12.
12, 13.
11, 12, and 13 were
was one of those.
But
maybe it was 13.
But again, you could make it.
There was one where I know they both stayed up all night. It was like Kai was winning at the pre-judging, and because they knew I'd always be straight with him. Phil came in and said, "What do you think after the pre-judging?" I said, "Dude, you can't come back tomorrow.
You better come back sharper."
And
there was one of those years, But,
and Harney stayed up all night with Phil, like measuring everything all night. There's none of them. They're both coaches. Kai was it George or whoever he was with?
Yeah.
And it was as tight as it could be. And now, switch to my position, you get to announce the winner. I've got to interview the top 3.
You got to interview them all.
Those 3 years, I literally had to pick Kai up out of the corner and say, bro, you have to do this interview. And I had a good enough relationship with him. He always said yes. He'd bite down. And
Phil had
hard.
him mentally more than physically.
Oh, he did.
You can see Phil was
Well, Phil was kind of like a villain. Like a lot of people thought Phil was a bit of an asshole because he'd goat the others, he'd poke them, and he'd.
Well, the way they portrayed him in Generation Iron, that movie, it was so funny to me because I knew Phil very well personally.
Likewise.
But they made it. They did like the Rocky thing, right? Like you had Kai, who was like Mr. T. They got him, training in that dirty, dusty apartment, making it look like he's got $0 and. Meanwhile, he lived in a nice house and drove a Mercedes, right? And he kept that apartment as a studio to paint. Yeah. So he didn't really live there. By contrast, they made Phil look with the silver spoon in his mouth. They got him in the robe.
In the robe.
Yeah, and he's in there, smoking a cigar with his bathroom in the tub. And I'm thinking, Phil didn't come from money. Yeah. His parents didn't have money. I mean, this guy grew up and his parents made a living, but he did not grow up like the rich kid.
Yeah,
no, it wasn't anything like that. But Phil had the athlete mentality of playing D1 basketball.
Well, this is the thing. And he was great at trash talk because in basketball, and we're talking about Australian rules football, you trash talk. You bust balls and you give it to people. So Phil came in with that, and a lot of people kind of misread that, and I think that movie and the magazines always painted him as this complete prick.
Well, because you almost felt bad for Kai. It's kind of like you felt bad for Lou, when you watch Pumping Iron, and here was Arnold, the Californians, and then there's Lou in the dumpy R&J studio in New York.
So go to Phil. Like, I got on so well with Phil. People often say to me, like, who was your favourite bodybuilder? I said, well, body-wise, we've got to say Ronnie, because I've never seen anything like it. I said, but
of course,
as far as interviewing and talking shit and just staying up all night talking about cars and bikes and fun shit, Phil's the most worldly, interesting... extrovert kind of, when you get him talking, I don't think we ever talked about bodybuilding. Him and I would sit for hours every time we tour.
I've been very close to Phil for years, and I agree.
You know it.
He's much more schooled and educated, and way past bodybuilding. But Phil, through history, will gain more respect because people will start to look at him when you like my dream matchup. I've always said of modern bodybuilding. The old ones, that's a whole different discussion. Is prime Phil versus prime Ronnie.
Yeah.
You take the best physique that each one of them ever put out, and you put it together for a one-on-one. That's a hell of a competition. Yeah, I mean, you know, Tony, because you start looking, you go, well,
back double by.
Well, the initial is you go, oh, come on, Ronnie. It's like, whoa, hang on a second.
Break it down.
Tell you what, Phil was a little more complete than Ronnie. Ronnie was great at his best. I mean, listen, he was crazy, right? But Phil's had better calves. Phil had a better midsection. Ronnie's tries were okay, but they weren't great. You know, that side try, suppose, not one of his best.
Yep.
Back double by, Ronnie? Yeah, but you know what? Go look at Phil's back double by.
You know what? This is where I'm stuck.
Right?
Because I always thought no one's ever going to beat Ronnie's back double by. But then I see pictures of Phil, and sometimes and I didn't appreciate it until I saw a picture. Even that year that he lost, he wasn't at his best. His back double by was still the best in the show, maybe the best of all time.
That brings me back to exactly what I said, right? The first year, again, year before he won the title, and goes on his run. You can make a case. The year he loses against Roden, now, granted, his midsection was not great. Everybody knew he had the hernia the year before. It wasn't the best Phil we saw, but he was still very dominant in winning. The second year that he comes back against Roden now Roden shows up at his all-time best. Can't take that away from him. Phil shows up, and he's right there. Like, he's not, but the midsection is no better. To make the case, it was almost even a little worse, and he was having a tough time. But he kind of gets, I don't want to say judged unfairly. Listen, you've been a judge, Tony. You've done everything out there. You can't help. Human nature dictates that you have to compare a guy against himself, as well as people say, well, it's whoever you're standing next to. Yeah, but you've already seen this guy. You've seen him at his prime and his best, so you can't help as a human being.
You can't
but
unsee it.
I've seen better from him, right? I don't care who it is, Ronnie, Phil. We've seen it with all the champs. Yeah. So, you know, he's a victim of his own circumstances in that, and Roden gets to win. Not to take anything away from him. God bless him. But you could have made a case. To me, Phil still beats him. Yeah. In almost every pose. You know, with all due respect to the Gone and the champion. You know,
the back shots, forget
it. He wasn't. Listen, Phil was still Phil, right? The midsection, not great, but everything else is there. Roden, a little weak in the upper body. The arms were never a strong point. Chest wasn't a strong point. He's got the legs.
Great legs.
Great legs, great abs. He's Milos.
Yeah.
And Milos is a great bodybuilder, you know, but that's what he had, right?
Yeah.
You could make a case again there. Could Phil have been a 9-time winner? Of course, when we talk, you know, the old days about, listen, Lou Ferrigno could have been a 10-time winner when you go back and you go, if it wasn't for the Hulk. I think people tend to forget that Big Louie was only, 24?
Yeah, in pumping iron.
He's 24 years old. He's a kid. He's a kid. He's a big kid, but he's a kid, right? And then you start doing the math and you go, well, let's see. Let's pretend the Hulk never comes, right? And he just goes bodybuilding. Arnold retires, right? He's out in 75. 76, Franco wins. I don't know. I think I'm going to take Big Lou over Franco, 76. 77, 8, and 9 is Zane. Now, that different era, different look, and all that. But if Big Louie's still kicking around with another 2-3 years of training,
with condition,
yeah. So that's 4 right there. Let's just say he beats Zane. He beats, you know, okay.
Yeah.
So where are we at? 77, 8, and 9 is Zane. 1980, Arnold comes back.
Yep.
There ain't no shit in the way in this earth with what we saw, which was ironically right here in your own country, in Sydney, that we were just at the Opera House, right? But the famous, obviously, you know, most talked about and all that stuff. Louis wipes him off the map, not even close.
Yep.
81, Franco comes back. A worse debacle than 80 ever was. No way Louis doesn't beat Franco in 81.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, Louis doesn't really get a Chris Dickerson. Come on. I mean, listen, with all due respect again to the champ. Nah. He's got Dickerson all day long. Again, by this time, bro, he's got, 5-6 years more of training at an Olympian level?
And maturity. And
I don't think people understand. You do, because you've met him 100 times and you knew physiques.
Well,
Louis
you know
was
what?
huge.
Check it out. So it was 17 years. I'm funny with numbers and stats. It was 17 years between when he retired, did the Hulk, and came back
for the
in
Masters.
Finland. No, it was the Open one.
Oh, that's
in
right.
Finland
Yeah, for the Open
in '92.
Yes. Yeah.
17 years. He was 70 pound heavier on stage and better conditioned. It was 70 pound. 30 kilograms more muscle, and he wasn't even lean back then. So you do the math. You're right. You know, I never thought of it.
He doesn't really get. To me, he doesn't even get any competition. Again, we're going down.
Look, if you get to watch this, Louis, this one's for you.
Until Samir.
Yeah.
In '83, right? And you know, who knows where Louis at that? But he just would have been so huge and dominant. You know, and then of course you get into the Lee Haney era. By then Louis would have been old. But you know, so what do we have here, right? You're talking about 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83. He could have been an 8-time champion himself.
Yeah.
Crazy, but you know, obviously these are fantasy type things.
Fantasy, that's good. But so going forward, so when you look at bodybuilding, like Arnold, 7 Olympias, Haney, 8 Olympias, Ronnie, 8 Olympias, Phil, 7, Dorian, 6. So there's 5 guys that have won 75% of all Olympias in 60 years. I mean, something like that is crazy, huh?
We have a very unique sport. The interesting thing now is people keep asking, do you see anybody else dominating it?
Yeah.
And I keep saying the same thing. 1, no. 2, whoever that guy is probably isn't even bodybuilding right now. You know, we might be old men smoking our cigars in your office, Tony, when that day comes. But that might be, that guy right now might be in a different sport. He might be like a Phil Heath type of thing where he comes from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Could be in classic.
A classic, you just
right? You know, maybe that guy comes around, but I haven't seen anybody with that type of wherewithal yet. And the current crop we have are great bodybuilders. But I don't see, listen, Samson, who I love, and I've been in Samson's corner since he was an amateur when I met him, when we set up the UK shows just some years back.
That's right,
you could see him coming. Great physique, beautiful body, and all that. But, you know, he's not the youngest guy either right now. I think he's knocking on the door of 40, isn't he? 38 maybe?
Something like that, yeah.
Hadi Chupan, again, great champion. Do I see him winning, 7 or 8? No. Not, again, no disrespect, right? Derek Lunsford, same thing. Came from the 212, Olympia champ. Boom, gets himself an Olympia Open, a Mr. title. Do I see him going on a 7? Well, no, because they've all beaten each other.
This is a funny thing.
Those 3 guys have all beaten each other at various times.
Right, so go forward. This year's been really interesting because all of a sudden, like if Andrew jacked, everyone says if he ever got in shape,
I like Andrew.
He could be the one. I mean, I remember the first time he came out of nowhere, and I remember Tyler saying, this guy's like 3D. He goes, don't worry about the pictures and the videos. Why don't you see him? And I saw him like, what? Now, he's a big guy.
Yeah,
big, tall, black guy,
6'2",
right? 6'2", right? And Samson is a big guy. And then you throw Rubiel out of nowhere into the mix.
Nextzilla.
He's a freak, Nextzilla. But he's another big guy. He's like a 6-footer.
Sure.
Right? And then Rami was talking about coming back this year. Now, if he did that, and you get those 5, all of a sudden, Lunsford and Hardy are the little guys.
Yeah, right.
Right? And when there's 2 or 3 of the same type, sometimes someone doesn't fit that groove anymore. And that's where Derek didn't get lucky. But Derek, the year he won, he was kind of the odd one out. No one looked like him. He was so cartoonish. No one else had that maturity and development. But there was no big guys, or there was one big guy.
It's all about comparison.
Right? So all of a sudden, you put 5 fucking big monsters in that lineup, the
Changes
whole
the
dynamic can
landscape.
change, yeah.
Well, listen, you know who was a victim of this back in his day was Branch Warren.
Yeah.
When Branch Warren had Jay Cutler out there, he had like kind, okay? Muscular, a couple big white guys out there, right? Little different build. Not the most aesthetically pleasing guys, right? Because you had some greats right next to him, right, with the smaller waists and the rounder muscle bellies. But he had company, and that was great for Branch. The minute Jay retired, or stopped competing at that time, we didn't know if he was going to retire. Branch was the odd man out. Exactly what you're saying, Tony. All of a sudden, you usher in a different crew, and one of these things doesn't belong here.
Yeah.
It's
the best way to put it, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just, listen, that's the way it goes. Your assessment is dead on the money. Not that shocks me, Tony, because you've been around a long time. You've seen a lot of physiques. Where that goes this year, because I like the bigger guys. It's just the way we grew up with the bigger Mr. Olympia looking. Samson, to me, is a perfect representation. Yeah. But he needs, company is going to be helpful to him. Yeah. And Andrew Jack comes in shape, and he's tremendous. You got some big boys. Quint Beastwood, as he likes to go by, Quentin Area. Another big boy. Again, he's coming up another year or so. He's going to be there. Now you've got Urs Kalachinsky, who comes in. Yeah. Another big boy, 6 foot tall, big frame, lots of room for muscle. He's only in his mid to late 20s.
He's won 2 pro shows in a row, and he looked grainy as shit at the last one.
Listen,
like he could be
that
frightening.
kid's going to be good. He was a little resilient at first about maybe moving to open, but now he's a believer. Yeah. But yeah, so now you've got some influx of some big boys, and you're right. Makes the smaller guys look a little smaller.
Right.
But the bigger guys,
and I know you get flack
bigger.
for saying maybe where does Nick Walker fit? Well, if you get all those guys, he doesn't fit. He's like the Branch Warren when there was no one to compare
God
him
forbid
to.
I should ever claim that Nick Walker wouldn't. I've taken enough grief on that. You know, we give our opinions on stuff, but which is kind of amusing because we can go down a whole road of the difference between then and now. You and I and similar have been doing commentary for years, play-by-play, commentary, breakdown.
emceeing the biggest show.
emceeing the biggest show,
seeing
right?
what no one else sees.
But we wrote for the magazines. We would put our predictions out there. We would, me and Dan Solomon did PBW for years, Pro Bodybuilding Weekly. For those who haven't been around.
I used to come on as a guest.
Yeah, and
make you laugh.
But we were doing this 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is we haven't done anything different for 20 years. I've been giving predictions and giving critique and handicapping shows my whole career, but my entire career of while I've emceed, and it's never been an issue until now. And now all of a sudden you got people out there. When I see people, it's the fan base, right? Hey, this isn't right. You shouldn't be giving your opinion. And it's like, well, why shouldn't I be giving my opinion?
To give it perspective, and I can say it so you don't have to get in trouble.
Sure.
You got a bunch of fuckwits that are sitting there in
Well said,
mum's
Tony.
basement with a keyboard and a set of fucking headphones, pretending to be experts, and they're not getting any clicks. So they say something to get a bite out of you or a bite out of me, so they get little clicks on their little YouTube or whatever. And then people start believing the shit. I'm like, these guys, some of these guys have never even been to a show. Like,
You're not wrong. Yeah.
For me,
Right.
and I get it here, and she says, "Oh, did you see so and so? They should have won." I said, "I always say, were you there?" Because I've been at so many shows where people go, Lunsford, sure. I said, but I was there. Like, this year in Pittsburgh when Lunsford beat Nick, you had to be there.
Yeah.
Nick didn't bring it. Now in New York, Nick was unbeatable a week later.
Yeah.
And no disrespect to Nick. And he to me, he's like a Branch Warren. He's as freaky as hell. He's not so aesthetic.
Sure he is.
But what he does have is a confidence and a self-belief like Branch had.
Great for the sport.
Where he doesn't give a fuck what anyone thinks. He's there to win. And Branch, same thing. When he was winning the Arnolds and stuff, it was like, you think, I don't know. And then you see him live and you go, I can't ignore this guy. He hasn't got any skin.
Well, the interesting thing, Tony, and again, we've both been victim of this for many, but it's gotten worse as it's gone on. I've said many tremendous things about Nick Walker. I love his muscularity, right? I love his attitude. Again, he's good for the sport, right?
Yeah.
He's his own man when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
He can hang with anybody from the side of this earth. He's one of the thickest, most muscular guys you've ever seen. He's a freak, right? Yeah. I've said all those things, but nobody ever says anything about that. All they key on is the one thing when I said, the question was asked, do you think he can win the Olympia? I said, no, not in my opinion. Because I always think that there'll be other bodybuilders out there, like Samson, like Hadi, like Derek, and there's some other ones in there. Listen, it doesn't stop there, like Andrew Jack, like Behruz Tabani, like Martin Fitzwater, who arguably could have beaten Nick in New York.
Good veto.
Good Vito's coming up. Now you got other, Nexzilla, again, all these guys now that are coming. But that doesn't make headlines these days, right?
No.
You got to have the negative comment. I did the same thing with Regan Grimes, right? We were talking about Regan. I love Regan Grimes. I think he's got a beautiful physique, and I've said as much. Yeah. Great physique, good-looking kid, beautiful symmetry and proportion and shape. He's got a Mr. Olympia physique if he can get in condition.
Right, but he doesn't have a Mr. Olympia attitude like Nick does. Nick's got the most confident, narrow-minded, clear, tunnel vision, and obviously that guy don't have that. Regan looks great, but if he had the mentality, and you often think, you go back to Flex Wheeler.
Yeah.
Like Flex Wheeler was, everyone said, the uncrowned Mr. Olympia. He wasn't disciplined enough.
If Flex had Dorian's mentality, he'd have won.
And I'll tell you, go back in time, I interviewed Dorian after his first Olympia win. In fact, he guest posed for me as Mr. Olympia when he won it. And I signed him up before he'd won it. And he said, I haven't won anything yet. This is my rate.
Sure.
I remember that year I called Vince Taylor. And I said, Vince, do you want to come to Australia and guest pose? He said, well, I think the home rate was like 2,000 per appearance. And Vince said, I want 5 because I'm going to be Mr. Olympia. Dorian said, I haven't won anything yet, 2. So we booked Dorian. He wins, comes out here and guest poses in Australia for the first time. And it was
did you have to give him an extra $3,000 or did he?
No, Dorian was legit, man. I mean,
he's always been a perfect gentleman and a great ambassador.
His word is his word, and that's that.
But those guys then had a different mentality. And this is nothing against Regan Grimes because we get along quite well. But my comment was, Regan said, he competed a couple times. He won and qualified. Great. And he said his goal was to be in the top 6 of the Olympia. And I said, fantastic. But if that physique you're going to put on the Olympia stage, it's not going to be in the top 6. No disrespect, right? But it's just not. And my suggestion was if he thinks that's good enough, then maybe he should wait another year, perfect that physique, because he's got all the tools, right? And all I caught was all this backlash, right? Of,
Bob's a hater.
Oh yeah, I'm a hater, and why are you telling him not to compete in the Olympia and all this stuff? It's like, wait a minute. First of all, again, I just said 10 things about Regan Grimes. 8 of them were positive, and I like this kid. He's a Mr. Olympia in the future and all that. Nobody said a word. All they focused on was so it's like, well, who's the one being negative, me or you guys?
Yeah, and a lot of it is people, they're so easily offended. They don't want to, anyone to and they can't stand the truth. I mean, he's telling the truth. So back to Dorian, I'll finish his story. So I interviewed him for the first time, and I said, how is it you train in this little basement in Birmingham? Like, we attempted to go out and move to America. As they all told me I have to go and, move to the US, train at Gold's Gym, go and, suck up to Joe Weider, do all this. He goes, yeah, I'll just stay here and work. And I said, but how do you beat these guys at the time? I said, like Flex Wheeler, like Vince Taylor, these black guys with these insane genetics, which you don't have. And he goes, and he explained it, I never forgot it. He said, well, essentially, he goes, they're a lot weaker than me. He goes, they're just not strong enough. And he said, I know they're cheating their diet. He said, I know, because back then there was no internet, right?
No.
So people would call each other, or you'd send call them, or text or whatever, and send a letter or whatever it was back then. And he said, people I know at Gold's Gym, they tell me that Flex comes in and says he got up in the middle of the night and had a scoop of ice cream, a couple of bits of chocolate. He said, so I went without a meal. And he said, and someone told me, Dillette, come in, just did some dips and skipped the treadmill. I did an extra 15 minutes. He said, I never missed a meal. I never ate anything I should have eaten. I never cheated on my diet. And he said, so beating them's easy. He goes, because essentially they're all a whole lot weaker than me and they don't have it here. Well, and that sums up, that's what I mean about having the hunger to do it. Go to Ronnie. I remember once I interviewed Ronnie, and Chad told me that when he first was working with Ronnie, he said, all right, first Olympia he won in 98. Yeah. He said, Ronnie, before we go out, just the last few days, I've got to get you ready. He said, tell me, did you cheat on the diet? Was there anything you didn't tell me along the way? And he said, Ronnie looked at him dumbfounded. He goes, I don't quite understand what you're saying. And Chad broke it down. He said, well, people cheat on their diet, and they might have had a little something they didn't tell me about, or got a little weak, or missed a workout. And Ronnie goes, people do that to themselves? And he couldn't get his head. He didn't know it existed.
Ronnie, he was old school.
He's like, no. I remember when he came out from one of those operations and said, have you got any regrets? And you think he's going to say, I pushed it all too far. Yeah, that was that one time I did 3 reps. I could have done 4.
I could have done more.
And he said, it's going to haunt me for the rest of my life.
Ronnie was old school, Tony. We didn't listen.
This is what I'm talking about, the mental strength, Bob. That you get
I
these
competed
guys
against Ronnie many years. We competed as amateurs together trying to get our pro card. But we come from the same era. There was no cheat day. There was no cheat meal even. You went 12 weeks, if not more, and you went from 0 to 100 on the day, 12 weeks out when that day hit, boom, you put it in the gear and you got on the treadmill and you put an hour in it. Now, we way overtrained for back then, but that's all we knew. But there was none of this other, like I hear diets today and it's like.
There's that kid yesterday that we saw at the show. One name is
there you go.
He was dieting on bagels and jam because his coach told him to. Right. I'm like, dude, what happened to fucking fish and salad? Right. Like if I was behind.
Boy, we ate sawdust and cat litter, for 12 weeks, man. There was no cheat day. We didn't have, I got to get my fats in there. I had this peanut butter. Dude, what? Like it's
I used to have the gold and black tuna, like the unlabeled tuna in brine.
With you had to squeeze out the water.
And then put fresh water in to wash the salt out of it so it was even plainer.
Bro, you're eating drywall paste. I mean, this stuff was nasty. But you know what? We got in shape, but that was old school compared to new school. And there is a difference, but people want to keep pointing the fingers at why were the physiques so much better back then? It's like, well, one, there was a whole lot less of that going on, right? The dieting was much more strict. Again, we didn't have all these 0 calorie. People have forgotten.
And coaches telling people, "I've got an easier way for you." You haven't got to suffer. You haven't got to suffer.
Coaches back then, who helped you? Your buddy at the gym, who competed, or maybe the older guys who had some experience.
Or you'd wait for the magazine to come out.
Or you wait for the magazine, for
the
Weeder to come out with some article on from Clarence Bass of how to get ripped, Tony. But. That was then and this is now. And again, we have seen some changes. The training was a little different, obviously. We didn't have the ironic thing is working with Panada, shameless plug, I see the best equipment in the world. and it's beautiful and it's great equipment, but it has to be utilized and trained the right way. We didn't start with machines. We started with barbells and dumbbells and things because that's all we had. But it was direct weight to muscle.
Yeah.
There was no, cams and things.
Cams and
Nautilus was
angles
kind of the first to come around.
Yeah.
And then, companies like Panada started, Hammer, and, some of these great companies came around and started making beautiful equipment, but a lot of leverage type equipment. So you could train a lot stronger than you really are, but now you're getting away from training, let's just say, triceps or just chest or, isolating movements.
And you don't get the assisted muscles balancing the bar and doing all that shit.
Because you can put 4 plates on there as a rank amateur. So there is something to be said for balance. You still need barbells and dumbbells. You still need direct, weight to muscle connection. Then you incorporate the machines and all that. Where people kind of blow it is, and I've said this for years, in your 20s, you should be looking to get bigger and put on size. So there's certain exercises that go with that. In your 30s should be all about perfecting the physique.
Yep.
Now you're refining and you're perfecting it.
Yep.
The 40s is all about preservation.
Yep.
And now as we've moving on into our 50s and such, Tone, your training needs to take a change. And we've seen champions over the years injure themselves out, Dorian included, who the mentality was still the same. Ronnie did the same thing. A lot of the guys did the same thing, thinking, well, I need to do this because this is what got me there. It's like, but no. Once you're there, Tony, you don't need the same level of effort to maintain an Olympian physique that you need to build
like
one.
that? Vince Taylor.
Vince Taylor was very smart.
Never trained super heavy. I remember seeing him with literally a 30-pound barbell, just doing rep after rep, and I think the guy's going to explode. He goes, this bodybuilding.
Vince is one of the most underrated bodybuilders of all.
I have to agree.
When you hear the names of the greats, his name isn't one that rolls off the tongue immediately unless you're really a bodybuilder.
You got to put him and Kevin in there. They didn't win Olympias.
You got to put him right in there.
At one stage, both of them had won more pro shows than anyone else in history. 22, 23 pro shows.
Yeah.
When pro shows were
Vince
hard to
Taylor,
win.
one of the most. He was the most winningest bodybuilder of all time.
Yep.
At
long
a certain stage.
It was him. It was Kevin. And then it was Dexter.
Ronnie, I think at one point was.
Yeah. Well,
I think he was in there, and then Dexter obviously, beat him for the over. He's got the 29. I think he ended up 29 titles.
But all those guys had more than 20. Chris was another one. Chris Cormier, our great mate. I mean, you talk about someone who
Chris,
very much Chris, but shit, Chris at his best. I mean, second in the Olympia when he goes out the night before the show. He's still second best in the world. I mean, you talk about lacking that tunnel vision.
Talk about genetics, right?
Yeah,
I mean, the fact that he could do that and still come out with a world-class physique.
I think Chris's biggest problem sometimes is his body was too perfect. He didn't have a weak point. And he didn't have a super stock. You put him next to Ronnie, and Ronnie suddenly got
very little weaknesses.
These biceps you couldn't look away. Chris's biceps matched his triceps, his neck, his cuff. Everything was perfect. Yeah. I mean, Chris at his best,
very true.
Dude, he's one of the best ever too.
I was just thinking, of course, Olympians, as we're talking about the history of, and you were asking me about the beginnings, the origins. And it reminded me of a great story because, like you say, a lot of people don't get to hear a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, but I was thinking back. So my very first, it was either the first or second, 06 or 07. First time we're doing the Olympics, me and Sean. And, so we get on stage and we get introduced, and I introduce Sean, right? So now we're out there at the microphone just starting the show. Well, before that had started, the half hour before or whatever, I've got the run of the show, all my notes, everything on there, all the athlete lists, everything. So it's a fairly substantial amount of paperwork, and it's on the podium. Okay. So I'm backstage, and, if you remember especially the old days, there was a lot of fanfare. It would take a half hour before I would ever even get on the stage because you had the color guard and you had the national anthem, and then you had speeches by, Ben Weeder and David Pecker.
So you took the words of David Pecker's speeches.
So there was a lot of stuff going on before. Then you had the Olympia theme, and it was 20 minutes before I even got introduced to the stage. But anyway, so all that goes by. And then the last thing was going to be David Pecker, who was the owner at the time with AMI.
For those who don't know, he's like the Timu Joe Weeder.
You're
He
right.
did his hair like Joe.
He did look like Joe at the end.
He tried.
Yeah, he did.
He really did. I heard he had plastic surgery to look like Joe Weeder.
So
I made that up.
He does his speech. Boom, he's gone. So here I come, right? All right, and I introduce Sean. And now we kind of shoot over to the podium. And, we start, hey, Sean, it's great to be, but it's great to be back in the Olympia stage. Oh, yeah, Bob, we're going back. I look down as we're talking. And on the podium is nothing. Zero.
No notes.
Not a piece of paper, not a note, and I am shitting. Now, bro, I got nothing, right? I mean, you're going to do some intro. I don't have anything. I don't have the run of the show. It's all gone. And I'm like, holy shit, right? And I can feel that sweat going down the back of your neck, and that cold comes over you, Tony, where you're like, so Sean's rambling about something, and now I gotta scramble, right? Now, you talk about like not letting the audience know. Keep in mind, this is only my second Olympia, I think it was. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what am I going to do here, right? So Steve Stone, God bless him, we lost him at an Olympia. That was talk about Olympia, not great moments. We could talk about that after, but so he was the main expediter, for those who don't know who Steve Stone was. And I pitched something to Sean, Sean, a lot going on this year, throw him something. Yeah, Bob, and so he starts talking. I get behind him, Steve Stone's right off to the side. I'm like, Steve, Steve. Yeah, Steve. Yeah. What's up? I said, bro, my paperwork's gone. What do you mean? It's gone. Like, it's not here.
Look.
Like, well, I don't know, but it's gone, bro. I need, I got nothing there. I says, either Ben or Pecker or somebody took my stuff, right? It's the only rational explanation. All right, try to find it, right? But no, I'm trying to conduct the thing with Sean at the same time as I'm kind of ducking behind. I bet if you go look at the video, you could see me kind of ducking behind Sean talking. That's what I'm doing. Okay, so now we're going on. Well, Sean, history's going to be made here tonight. Another great Olympia lineup, and we've got some great ones here. And what do you think about this guy? I don't know. Boom, I throw him something else, right? So he starts. Thank God Sean can talk, right? Now he doesn't know what's going on at this point. I'm the only one that knows what's up. So now here comes Steve, and he's got some papers. I'm like, oh, thank God, right? And he kind of gives me the papers, and I look at him like, these are Friday night's papers. They're the wrong papers, right? He's like, well, I don't know. I go, bro, Pecker's got to have it. He was the last guy up here. So he's scrambling, right? Now it's starting to get, like where it's like, oh boy,
athletes are lining up.
Bro, I need to run.
Let's go.
I can't even start the show. I don't even know what I'm going to do. Like once we get to that point, because there's no out of this one. Oh. At some point, I'm going to have to call for a commercial. Like, what do I do? So it was like something out of a movie. It was like getting the baton past you on the pass, like on the relay. So I pitched something else to Sean, and now we're kind of wrapping it up. Okay, well, you know what, Sean? We got to get the things because we got a great show lined up for you tonight. Hey, who do you think's going to win? I don't know. I gave him something, right? Just then, here comes Steve Stone, and he's got some papers, and I'm like, please, God. And I reach behind Sean, and he gets the papers. I'm like, all right, folks, so let's get things moving on here.
First competitor.
So the paper, so when David Pecker went out there, he had his one little piece of paper, and he put it down on the top, and when he got done, he grabbed the whole thing, and he walked off, not thinking that, it's like, why don't you just take your one little piece of paper? So he's in the green room, of course, he doesn't know, and the papers are sitting over there by the fruit bowl, and Steve finally found him. Thank God for Steve Stone. But you talk about avoiding a disaster. This would have been the biggest disaster of all time.
And the funniest thing is that Pecker only had one piece of paper because the fucker could talk for 20 minutes.
Bro, I had you've done many shows, bro, I got 25 sheets sitting there. It's like, how did you confuse this? But thank God, Steve Stone. But, unfortunately with the good, we've also had the traumatic where we've had like Steve Stone passing at an Olympia. And that was rough. For those of us that I knew Steve for 20-something years, he was out of New York. We were both New Yorkers. The greatest expediter ever. Just a great person, great human being. And we were at the Olympia. And we're backstage. It was at the expo. We're getting ready for the prejudging to come out. Something was on stage wrapping up, whatever, and then, here we go. So I'm backstage with Steve, and we're talking, we're this close, So, all right, so we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. We're going through the order of stuff. Okay, blah, 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 blah. He's like, all right. He's like, well, look, we got about, 10 minutes, I think, and then let's go. I said, all right, listen, I'm going to go grab a coffee. So if you remember back then, that was at the Expo Center. Behind there, if you went one way, there was like a little concession stand.
Yep.
Kind of off the beaten path. And then he says, all right, I'm going to hit the bathroom. I'll meet you back here in 5 minutes. It's okay. So I shut off, got a coffee, and come on back. I'm gone. How long does this take, Tony? Maybe 3-4 minutes, maybe
less.
Right? Now I come back and things are a little weird. I'm like, what? Like, what's up? Like, something's not right here. I can see people kind of scrambling around. Well, apparently, when we said, all right, I'll meet you back here, he went left, I went right. He went around the corner, boom, collapsed. Literally around the corner. Shit. I went and got my coffee. I come back.
With Steve.
And, now I'm talking to one of the girls who's back there, and she's like, oh, it's a problem, you know, and Steve fell, you know, and something, and I'm like, fell, like, bro, I'm confused, like I got nothing, you know, I'm like, what are you talking about? Did he go back on stage? He fell off the stage, like what happened here? He's like, there's blood all over, and this and that, and I'm like, you talk about a surreal moment, Tony. I'm looking at her what? Like,
never heard you
bro,
tell
I
the
just
story.
went to get a coffee.
I know.
It was this
And
weirdest.
This is your buddy of 20 years.
I'm talking to him like I'm talking. It'd be like you going to the bathroom right now and you don't come back, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not
Thanks, Bob.
You're knocking something. And now, we're starting to know, so now I'm starting to get information back. Apparently he went from me. I didn't know. And boom, he collapsed in a thing. Big Al actually found him back there.
El Shuffle.
Yeah. He just happened to come in that way because this is behind like the curtains.
Yeah.
This is out on the floor where everybody is.
And no one understands too. It's always dark
He had
back there.
taken-
Like you could literally step over someone because it's always
right.
We've got to have night vision back there.
So, he had taken medications for a couple different things or something, but nothing major. But I don't know if that lended to it, but he apparently had a brain aneurysm. Boom. When he was out before he even hit the ground. But now we're delaying, the opening, of course, of the prejudging of what we're doing. And, they're working on him kind of as they're going out. We're delaying. Finally, Robin comes up and he's like, yeah, listen, man, don't look good. And I'm like, oh, boy, like really? He's like, yeah. So now we're just kind of sitting there, and it's like, now there's thousands of people out there. Judges are sitting there, thousands of people, and it's like, and he's like, look, I hate that. Are you good to go out? And I'm like, yeah.
I have to be.
What are you going to do? You know what I mean, Tony? Like, and, your buddy just, died, literally. You don't, but at that time we knew he didn't make it. Like, he was gone.
Yeah, but you can't go out and say that because his family doesn't know.
You talk
can't...
about the hardest thing in the world. I've never had to do this, and I hope I never do again. I got to go out there now in front of all these thousands of people with a smile on my face. Hey, Vegas! Hey, right?
And you can't say anything.
No, I can't say nothing, right? Obviously. I mean, this is traumatic. It just happened 10 minutes
Yeah, but
ago.
it'd almost be, if I can,
my God.
it'd almost be therapeutic to be able to go out and say something. You can't. And you're dealing with the fact that it's not just the expediter died. This is your fucking best mate.
This is our buddy, yeah.
Yeah.
And I go out, and the worst thing is the judging panel. I'm the only one who can see the judges. They're facing me, of course. Everybody else was fans, looking. There's thousands of them out there. And I'm looking, and I'm trying not to make eye contact because, I mean, he's from Steve's neck.
I would say Steve loved him.
They were best buddies for years.
Steve Weinberger
but Steve
named a show
and
after
all
him.
of them, and his wife Andrea, who did the scoring, she's there at the event. But all the judges, and their tears are coming down. And I can't make, like I said, I'm trying to focus like way out there, you know what I mean, Tony? Because I'm like, hey, Kate Vegas, talk about the hardest thing to do in the world. But I hate to use the old cliche, the show must go on. But man, that was and then I got to give credit, Andrea, his wife, actually was able to come on stage that night and give it like a little, because a lot of people didn't even know. Of course, this is behind the scenes, backstage, the strength of her to be able to, because even Big Steve couldn't say nothing. I mean, he was choked up. Jim wouldn't want to say nothing. Andrea came out, did something, and of course, and I, filled in all this stuff. And but with the good, unfortunately, we've lost a lot over the years, in our bodybuilding world. But like you said, bro, the show must go on, and we've got some. Some great Olympia moments over all these years of press conferences and
man.
history.
I mean, you've had some incredible moments. I mean, going through, you've talked about the Jay Rain, the Phil Rain, the Ronnie Rain.
Yeah.
And then since Phil, it's kind of been, like you said, like a little mixed bag.
Yeah.
We've got all these.
We had like 5 champs in 6 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Big Rami, Brandon.
Yeah. I mean, Brandon was almost like a Dexter. No one thought he'd quite get there, and it was his year.
Yeah.
He wins, come out here, won our Arnold out here. He was extraordinary, you know. And then Rami, he was the one.
Big Rami.
If Rami's ever in shape, everyone's in trouble. I remember interviewing Phil after one. I'm doing the backstage interview, and I said, "What about Big Rami?" And Phil just looked at me like this. He said, "If ever he gets in shape, we're fucked." It was his exact words. He goes, "We all know if this guy, if he can actually get it together, we're all fucked." Because
Big Rami was a force in his day. Interesting. His physique was better 10 years ago. Like when he first came in, that was a physique, And over the year, he was still formidable, obviously, and he ends up winning, 2 Olympias. But honestly, if you look, and it's, all things change, right? The competition changes, the landscape changes. The physique he won the Olympia with was not as good as the physique he had winning the New York Pro earlier.
You know what's funny?
again,
And I'd say to him year after year, because he'd come out here, so many times. I'd always say, Rami, come in 20 pound lighter. Stop telling me you're 320 pound. I don't care.
Yeah.
Because you were like 290 somewhere in there.
He's a big boy.
You're untouchable. You've already got more muscle. No, I'm big. I said, yeah, but you're already bigger than everyone.
Yeah.
So if you're conditioned, you're still bigger than everyone. They just can't play. Yeah. They can't play in your sand pit because you're just another level. And
he was tremendous. I mean, I saw his name floating around again. I put no stock in it. You're not going to see Rami again, nor would I even suggest it. I think if you're a 2-time champion like that, and listen, now he's in his 40s. He's had some physical, issues that he was trying to get looked at, nerves and things.
Nerve stuff in his back.
Unfortunately, we both know, Tony, we've been around this game too long. Nerves don't come back, okay?
Bob, the sport goes forward. I remember when Jay did that comeback? Was it 2000? After it was 2009.
His final Olympia?
And then it was a couple of years later, he goes, I think I've still got it. And I saw him backstage. In fact, there's a picture.
Yeah.
Where is it? Maybe it's out in the gym. Of me and him backstage. And I'm saying, shit, Jay, you did it. Because he was on his own.
Yeah.
And you don't, what we see backstage, because we go backstage, sometimes you go, oh shit, no one saw him coming. Anyway, I saw Jay backstage thinking I'm this bodybuilding expert. I'm like, Jay, you're going to fucking dominate up there, man. You got it. And he walked out. And when he was next to the others, it was like he looked old and he was done. And you go, shit.
It happens.
He just got retired, And it's a funny thing.
We've seen it.
You don't want to see it. You don't want to see it. It's like seeing a great boxer get knocked out when they should have just stopped.
Unfortunately, we're in a game where very few bodybuilders ever go out on top. They just don't. Unfortunately, most of them, I hate to say it, have to go out kicking and screaming.
Yep. Well, we've seen a lot of it. History repeats.
Ronnie and his last Olympia, they gave him 4th, okay, it could have been 6, Yeah. Jay, and even Jay, he's been very upfront in his. He's like, they still gave me, I think he was 6 or somebody. He said, I could have been 8 or 9, honestly. And he's, I love Jay because he's very upfront and he keeps things real. Dexter again went out very good, but he went full circle. Yeah. Very first pro show years ago, he was 9th, or his first Olympia might have been. His last show, he was 9th. I always like that full circle type of thing. And you talk about a tremendous physique, right, for many, many years. But I hate to see comebacks in bodybuilding because we've seen almost none. Big Louie was probably the one of the best ones that we've seen.
Probably the only one, really.
Yeah, but honestly, the best comeback of all time wasn't even in the men's division. It was in the women's division with Juliette Bergman. She came back and won an Olympia.
Yeah.
So we talk about bodybuilding. But for the guys, they don't age like fine wine, bro, unfortunately.
But the thing is, people forget the sport gets better. Everything gets better. Like if you're into motor racing, cars get faster. Sprinters run faster. Bodybuilding gets better.
Well,
and so you can't think...
The money's gotten better.
The money's gotten better, but the standard too. You can't come in with what you had 5 years ago thinking the sports stage still, I had some time out.
No. Listen, I know a lot of the guys get grief, especially in the open, but people have to remember, classic bodybuilding is bodybuilding. Open bodybuilding is bodybuilding, okay? Like I see a lot of interviews now, and even Jay had mentioned something, Lee Priest, Jay, there's been a handful who've kind of speculated, like, we don't really need these other divisions. And I would say to that is absolutely categorically wrong. And here's why. First of all, go ask Flex Lewis if he enjoyed the 212 division as a 7-time Olympia champ. Go ask Jose Raymond, who didn't even went on to turn pro. He could have turned pro 8 years before he did. The winningest amateur we've ever had in history by far, because he said there was no point in turning pro back then because what's he going to do? He's going to go stand next to 6-footers that he's outweighed by 100 pounds?
He's 5 foot tall or something.
So he just stayed in the amateurs. Guy Cisternino, another guy that comes to mind. Great career, had a lot of pro wins, got to the Olympia a whole bunch of times, signed endorsement deals and contracts and things because he was in the 212. Now you got classic, right? Same type of thing. But to think that these things, I was able to compete with the big boys. Well, good for you. Listen, there's you and there's Sean Ray. You can name them on 3 fingers, right, of those guys who had the genetic disposition to go. But here's the thing, Tony. Number one, we don't lock the doors from the outside, okay? You're free to go to whatever division you want to. Yeah. So Jay was kind of indicating almost like, they're like stuck in these other divisions. They're not stuck. Listen, Derek Lunsford wasn't stuck. He went from the 212 into the Open and won the Mr. Olympia.
He guest posted at Pittsburgh, and Jim said, you should do the Open.
Hadi Choopan was a 212 competitor, right? Now we got Urs. Maybe he opens that door. But these guys have the ability to go to other classes.
But you got to look at these divisions and what they've done as a promoter, what they've done for our sport. So physique has been a great entry level.
Sure,
because
of course.
NPC worldwide, and you saw our show yesterday in Sydney, and IFBB Pro League, our standard's so high that a lot of people here, they go and do some shitty federation almost to graduate just to do the beginners. If we didn't have men's physique and they had to go straight into bodybuilding, that's a 5 or 10 year process.
Correct.
And classic physique, some people are built for that. They see it as a healthier alternative, but also as more achievable. Now, just go back a step. Look what fucking C-Bum did for our sport. Not for classic, for bodybuilding.
Sport,
Like my kids, that generation, they know who C-Bum is. They might not necessarily know who Hadi Choopan is or Samson. Everyone knows who C-Bum is. He's got the biggest following we've ever seen in the sport. He blessed our sport by being a multiple Olympia champion and taking it to the masses with how he presented himself on YouTube and became so accessible.
Right.
And he built a fan base we've never seen in bodybuilding. True?
And to the point we're making, if you go look at C-Bum before he won his streak of 6, right? He was competing for what, 2, 3, 4 years? He wasn't winning.
No.
And he wasn't winning because he needed to perfect it. Now, once he got there, right, he put out a physique that was unbeatable for 6 straight. So, but it took him that time. Derek Lunsford, okay, who came up and, built his way up and then eventually won a 212, Olympia title, and then eventually went to the Open and all that, right? Here's the problem with the notion of we don't need the other classes. So if Derek Lunsford, go back, whatever it is now, 6, 7 years, right, turned pro with that physique, where the hell was he going in the Open? Nowhere, right? Where were any of those
He's going to take 16th 5
where was
times
Hadi
and quit.
Choopan going, right? Again, go back when he competed in the 212 against, Flex Lewis. Where was that physique? Okay, so he turned pro. Now, if there was just one big Open division, bro, these guys never even would have gotten to that point. They would have done 4 or 5 years, and they would have been done, and they would have been out with no success, right? With no top 5s, no titles, no nothing. So you can't just kind of blanket state, with this thing. I was like, well, Lee Priest, well, listen, Lee was tremendous. He had a tremendous physique. Yes, he could hang with the big boys. Sean Ray, tremendous physique development, great genetics. He could hang with but you're talking about a couple of guys, and they have that ability.
You can count guys like them on one hand.
You have to give guys the ability, exactly to your point, Tony, to grow within the organization.
And they can graduate. Here's
Logan Franklin is a top Olympian contender now. You know where he started? With board shorts.
Yeah, I know.
He was a men's physique competitor.
Absolutely.
If he doesn't have that time to mature his physique and grow, where would he have been as a pro 5, 6 years ago?
As a promoter, I see those entry levels, which are achievable, as feeders to bodybuilding. Yeah. Now, some get to classic and they stay there because they're really fucking good at it.
Sure.
Others go, you know what? I don't quite have the shape for that. Go into open bodybuilding, and so on. And some go back.
Would Urs have won an Open Pro show 5 years ago?
Wouldn't have got a call out.
Wouldn't have got a call. It would have been dead last.
Yeah.
And there you go. That sums up.
You do that 5
right
or 6 times, you quit.
Right, because again, you're not getting any success, but he found success in classic. And listen, this guy's a top 3 Olympian, right? So it's not like he was terrible or he wasn't doing well.
Right.
And he was doing extremely well and could still be doing well.
And he's finding it harder and harder to make the weight. So
now he's progressed up great. Now I think he's going to be a good contender to do well in Open now. But to shut down all those people, with all due respect to everybody's got their opinion, but you got to base an opinion on some objective facts and truths of where this is. Again,
but dude,
the ability to move is up to the athlete.
But as a promoter, we have to put up the money to rent these world-class venues. You've seen what I do.
Oh, yeah.
We go all out, right? Now, I can't do that with protein powder or air or some. It takes a lot of money to put on these shows. And these divisions bring a whole lot of people into our sport who pay their entry fees and bring their family and friends. And that's why bodybuilding is so strong worldwide. I mean, you travel even more than me these days, once upon a time. Before the pandemic, I was quite a traveller. But let's go back to men's physique.
Sure.
In the Middle East, that is the most popular division, bar none. India, Pakistan, all through the Middle East. Asia, they're
even
insane
bigger
for men's physique. It's even bigger. All right, now, you see all these guys now coming into our sport from Middle East and Asia, which we didn't even heard of years ago. They're not going to go into open bodybuilding ever. Or someone's going to start a federation just for that. So I think credit to Jim Mannion, who's had the foresight and wisdom just to bring stuff in. And I remember when the board short division came in, I go, I don't want to do that. That sucks. We're not doing that at my shows. And bikini, I'm like, who wants to see those untrained?
Sure.
Man, that saved us. It saved the sport. It's allowed us to be really successful as promoters, and then to put that money back into the sport to get better venues and better lighting and better everything because of those divisions. Now, it's easy for us just to talk about the Olympia, but all of this is what feeds the Olympia.
Yeah.
Now, worldwide, it's the best fucking thing that ever happened. So I'll push back with anyone on that.
Sure. Listen, Jim, what he's accomplished and put together, that's his name in bodybuilding history. We wouldn't be anywhere near where we are without Jim, without his efforts. And I've known Jim since I was a kid. I literally have known Jim since I was like 15. Because
let's go back to 15-year-old Bob, because I was going to ask you this, and the Jim story, and growing up in Rochester, New York.
Yeah.
Let's go back.
Grew up in upstate New York, very heavily sports oriented. Played football, played baseball, bowled, any sports you can possibly think of.
Were you a big kid, 15?
No, not particularly. I mean, I think I was normal. I was athletic. I was more wiry, but athletic. Again, I played sports my whole life. So we played whatever the season was. That's the sport we played. I got into bodybuilding at around 12 years old with pumping iron, because it was right around 1977 when pumping iron came out and the Hulk was on TV. Was on TV with Big Lou Ferrigno. I got interested in bodybuilding. So I started, I asked for a weight set for Christmas, and I got it, the old plastic and cement interlocking, weight set and all that. Had the spring thing that came with it, the little things that you never use. Yeah. And that's where I started. And I started building my own equipment. It's like
the bull worker.
Remember the bull worker? Yeah. I started building some of my own equipment. I'd look at the equipment in magazines. And say, I could make that. I would make it out of wood, basically. Right. I'm a kid, but I was always handy with, as a craftsman, So I'd make dipping bars and all kinds of things. And so I got into bodybuilding. Started competing at 13.
13.
So, and I'd actually started to, show some signs, but. I'd work out late at night, trying to put the weights down on the base. So I'm supposed to be sleeping, of course, getting ready for school. So, and that's how it went, went 13, 14. So the first shows I did were AAU, which is the Amateur Athletic Union. That's who sanctioned all the bodybuilding shows back in the day. There was no NPC. So all of a sudden, and I trained in upstate New York, Jim Raquel, who was a judge at the time, did the local shows and things.
Yeah, I remember.
I remember Jim Mannion, I got to be about 15 at that point, because we're switching over to this NPC thing. So now we're not going to be AAU anymore, we're going to be NPC. Now, we're just people in the gym, we don't know that this is all, the judges and people putting this stuff in place. So little did we know at the time, Jim Mannion had come from the AAU. The NPC was actually a part of the AAU. They kind of broke off. Yeah. And Jim was going to head that. But he was recruiting at the time. So, again, you got to consider the time frame here. This is the, early 80s.
Yeah.
So, Jim Mannion's driving around state to state, and he's recruiting judges, and he's recruiting chairmen. And he had come to New York, and I don't know how him and Jim Raquel knew each other, but he had gotten Rock on board to judge and be the chairman of New York. So, boom, all of a sudden we were NPC. And I got to believe, I don't have any proof of this, but I wish I still had, but I had to have been one of the first NPC members. Right. Like, I still wish I had that. I would have been card number, 20.
006.
Yeah, like that type of thing, because we literally switched over.
Handwritten cards, right?
And we would drive, me and Jim Raquel would drive from show to show. I would compete in the teenage, and he would judge. Yeah. And we went all over the place, in that area for the most part. New York and Albany and Utica and all these areas, Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, of course, with the gym show, Virginia. And I competed in a whole shitload of teenage shows. Yep. And then went from there, I just kept going. Right. But it's interesting because, obviously knowing Jim now my whole life, he was literally like a second father to me. And the interesting thing was everybody always thought it was like an advantage, because I was very close with Jim Raquel, who by that time had become the head Olympia judge. Yeah. And I knew, Jim Mannion. And everybody thought, like it was some advantage. And I'm thinking, well, why did it take me 13 years to turn pro if it was such an advantage? If anything, it was a disadvantage.
Because they didn't want people to think it was...
Bingo. They didn't, Jim Raquel, he called it the way he saw it, type of thing. But he didn't want to make it look like he was favoring me because I was his boy. Yeah. So I think some of those could have gone my way and actually went the other way. But
So
but it
go
was
forward.
ironically Jim Mannion, when I finally got my pro card, so the
So
USA...
what year do we get your pro card?
2000.
USA? 2000.
2000, I finally get my, there's a lot of ups and downs in there, but unfortunately we don't have 5 hours to cover all those years.
Yeah.
But I finally got my shit together. I win the USA.
Who'd you beat
Everybody.
that year? But names.
I beat them all, Tony.
Yeah.
There were some good names. Tavita Al-Hawaihi, who won his class. Jose Raymond, actually,
yeah, I thought,
won his class. Who was in there? Robert Washington was a big guy.
I remember him.
He outweighed me
And
by
it was
20.
like one pro card too, wasn't it? It was like you win the
That's
overall.
it. Yeah, you had to win it all back then.
Right. So 2000, win your pro card.
So I win my pro card, after this long battle, and all that. And here comes Jim on stage, and trophy gets put down, and he turns to me and he says, "Hey, congratulations, chick, great job. Don't touch the suit." and he raises me. He had a light-colored suit on. I'm like, what were you thinking?
That was a pretty good gym.
Classic Jim though. Don't touch the suit. I said, but that was it. That was the beginning of it all. That literally started. But it just shows. Again, the goalposts changed over time. When I started bodybuilding, I want to be Mr. Olympia.
Yep.
Of course.
Yep.
And listen, I made every effort. I won almost every teenage show I went in, except for the one Sean beat me in. Ooh, bastard. Son of a. Anyway, went to the juniors.
Yeah.
And you talk about your ups. 86, I went to the junior nationals. That was in Niagara Falls, actually.
Yeah.
And I got my ass handed to me.
Yeah.
Didn't make the top 15.
Yeah.
And that was just a big kick, and a big reality check of you better step it up. And I did. And in 87, 1 year later, I came back and I won the entire thing. Heavyweight overall, got me on magazines. My first magazine covers it. The first NPC News, #1, is me on the cover with Sharon Marvel.
Wow.
#1, volume 1, and it's from the Junior Nationals that I won.
Wow.
A little history there for you.
Fun
Tony.
fact.
Fun fact.
So how old were you when you turned pro?
21.
Turned pro.
When I won that, 21.
Right.
I didn't turn pro until I was 33.
That's what I thought. Yeah, 33. Yeah.
But it's just ups and downs. I was on top of the world. I was the next great thing, the great white hope, the whole thing back then. And
Italian kid from upstate New York.
I went to the you'll know some names there. I went to the 87 Nationals that Sean Ray won. Again, this guy.
This bastard.
But he looked tremendous at the time. And all I had was Phil Hill in my class. Yeah. so I had Phil Hill and Harry Dodich and there was some tremendous Johnny Ray Kinsey, Troy Zucolato.
Yeah, I remember them all.
So I took 5th in my first national show, 87. Beautiful, right? 88, we go there. I did the couples USA with a friend of mine, W. Bouchard. Took 8th in the Open. Okay. 89, I come back. 2nd place in the USA to Johnny Morant.
Yeah.
Just missed on the pro card.
Right.
And then from there, it was just a series of,
Right,
okay,
so this
second.
is just, without going through every year,
Yeah.
so people don't get, from when you're almost winning your pro card at the USA, 10 more fucking years of grit, hard work, diet, discipline, giving up everything, driving around in the shit box, going from show to show.
Well, one, it was a whole lot tougher back then. Like you just said, you had to win the overall. There was no winning your class. There was no 2nd place. There was no
Remember some
nothing.
of those guys that never won their pro card that you mentioned? Like,
Oh, well, listen, here's the 90. So I get to the 91 Nationals, okay? And it's, to this day, considered the toughest Nationals of all time. So here's your lineup in the 91 heavyweight. There was no super heavyweights. So we're all in the heavyweights. Kevin Levrone, Flex Wheeler, Paul DeMeo, some guy named Ronnie Coleman. You might have remembered him. Matt Mendenhall, myself, Chris Cormier, Edgar Fletcher, Dean Caputo.
Edgar Fletcher, that's the guy I was thinking that never turned pro. He was, oh man, he was good.
Yeah. This was your heavyweight lineup
And
at the
one
91
pro card.
Nationals. One overall pro card. Yeah. So, it was tough. But I also kind of messed up myself. There were shows I could have won. But I was so close that I kept just missing. But now I'm 4th. Boom, I'm 2nd. Boom, I'm 3rd. I'm 5th. I'm 4th.
Right.
So I'm right there, but I ain't winning. So
And all these idiots that say, oh, it's all politics, you got to know someone. You're one of Jim's friends.
Yeah.
It takes you 10 more fucking years to...
Yeah.
Sorry, check you.
Listen, there was,
Cool.
again, could I have won in, 89 when I took 2nd? Well, probably, but I didn't.
You didn't.
So, but anyway.
Go through to 2000. You win your pro card finally. You're 33.
Yeah. The whole rest of those years is all ups and downs of trials.
That's what people get.
Trials and errors.
But when you get your pro card, Now you got to start all over again. This is what I say to a lot of amateurs out there, like, be careful what you wish for, because now you're back in the reserve
But the pro
grade.
card brought me freedom, okay? Because it allowed me, you know, now I'm a champion. I'm the overall USA champ. Magazine covers start happening.
Sponsorship,
I
money
signed
coming
a deal
in.
with GNC.
Yeah.
Boom, I put 2 paychecks in my pocket. Boom, out to the coast. Because it was always my dream. That was the dream, right, Tony? To go out to the
Moved to
Mecca.
California.
Went to California. Signed a deal with a deal with GNC before I even left. And then signed with Weider. And
You went to Weider headquarters, met
Yep,
Joe
met
Weider,
Joe.
the whole... Because that
Said-
was a big thing. People don't get it back then. That was the ultimate. If you didn't win Olympia, as long as you went to Woodland Hills to go to
and luckily
Joe's office.
Joe was still there. You know, he was still doing his thing when and back then. You know,
Show me your bicep.
yeah, I got all that stuff. Good Joe. So, and then, it bought me freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom to go out there. You know, then of course, you know, I'd go out on auditions and I got commercials and I was in parts in movies and things like that. So it was just a great time and I did exactly what I wanted to do.
And you did like TV shows and stuff back then. What was that?
I did Malcolm in the Middle. I had spots in Dodgeball and I Love You Man.
What was that one where you all dressed up as superheroes? What was it?
Well, there was a few things. You know, that's where your Hollywood thing kind of came in because there was a Visa commercial that I auditioned for that was playing at the Super Bowl that year.
Yeah.
It had to be around, I don't know, probably 04, 05, somewhere in that range. So I went to like 3 auditions and I got the part of Captain America.
Yeah.
Of course, Tony, right? So, and they liked me because there was dialogue and they liked my voice, you know. So there was like this little.
That voice has kind of been kind to you, Bob.
Yeah, I know. But they like you know, they like the deep, you know. And I had this line, I had this, you know, excuse me, ma'am, you know, and I had this, you know, the superhero kind of thing. And they loved it. And they're like, boom, you got the job, right?
And that New York twang just to top off those tones, yeah.
So, but this was huge because it was a Visa commercial and it was going to play during a Super Bowl. So this is huge, right? And long story short, I go to the fitting, you know, you had like 3 auditions you had to get through. Finally got the call. Then I went to the first fitting. So they're making this thing. It's you know, it's Captain America. I mean, it's going to be formed to me. I go to the second one, and you know, they're doing even more tailoring and all that. And before I get to the third one, I get a phone call from like some producer dude, and he's basically I don't know what he's telling me at first because he's kind of getting around about like I thought they took my my dialogue away from what he was. You know, I'm like, what do you mean? Like I don't have any lines anymore? He's like, well, no, I mean, like they're going to go with somebody else. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, I got the job, right? He's like, yeah, this is Hollywood, right? I end up finding, again, long story, even longer. So I lost the job. You know, like they went with somebody else. Even though I got to all the staging of even the costume, and it never happened to me before. I'm not used to Hollywood. I'm a bodybuilder for God's sakes. But so I found out though because some of the other guys were on there. Dave Hughes he was like Wolverine. Thor was played by Gunther. Yeah. So a bunch of the guys, you know, we all used to audition together for all these things. So I was really depressed on that thing. I'm like, man, this was not only going to be a shitload of money, but I was going to play Captain America. This was my thing.
At the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
All-American Bob.
On the Super, it's going to air during the Super. Everybody in the world's going to see this. And anyway, I find out through the grapevine because the guys had gone to. I said, well, find out who the hell got the Captain America spot. Because we were all there.
Don't say it was Sean Ray.
No, it was not.
Joking.
Thank God. Thank God. So no, it turns out it was the brother of the talent director, somebody.
Yeah.
Somebody that was involved in the thing. It was her brother. And this guy looked like a dork. I mean, you know, if you ever go back and look at the commercial, you'd be like, you got to be kidding me. Like, not Captain America? Seriously, Tony. I got my revenge because I ended up doing modeling work for Marvel Comics as Captain America.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did. So I got cover shots.
Was it Gladiators?
Oh, so that was a whole other thing. So
that was the show I was thinking of. You were in that, right?
No, I did. So here's a good short story for that. Unfortunately, when you're around all these years, you got a lot of stories, Tony.
Yeah.
But, this is back in 91. So 91 was a pivotal year for me. By this time now, I had competed in the NP, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91. And now we're getting towards 90. I still don't have a pro card. So 91 also, the WBF came about.
Yeah,
Vince McMahon,
I was
WBF.
there. I was there with Sonny when it all happened.
There you go. So now that comes along. They put out their magazine, Bodybuilding Lifestyles. And if you go look at that first issue, I'm in it. They needed somebody to demonstrate these exercises, and in the magazine, it's a bodybuilding magazine. Well, they couldn't use any pros really. They didn't even have their own pros lined up.
No one was signed up.
So I don't know how I got involved, but somebody gets in contact with me and they asked if I would be interested in doing it. I'm like, sure, okay. So they fly me into Connecticut. I go to Vince McMahon's house, right? Yeah. And he's got it's exactly what you would think. The long winding road, the guardhouse, big gigantic brick home, beautiful. He's got a gym, second only to Rudy Panada's in Italy. And I shoot, and if you go look at the first issue of Bodybuilding Lifestyles, there I am doing pec decks and some other stuff. So they were actually thinking about signing me. They were only going to sign 2 amateurs as they got their field. Darren Baker and Troy Zucolato and Jimmy Quinn and everybody, right?
Stridham.
Everybody. They were going to sign me and Paul DeMeo.
Right.
Say, oh, I'll take a look. Now at the time, again, I'm a struggling amateur bodybuilder. I don't know if this is ever going to happen. And I got these guys willing to give me a paycheck.
Yeah.
So I'm considering it. Well, doesn't the thing fold shortly thereafter?
Yeah.
And then the interesting thing is just prior to that, I think it was just before, I had gotten the call for the Gladiators. So I got on there. I went to an audition in New York. I had to beat like 30 other guys. They picked me. So I go on there. Boom, I'm Titan. And I joined.
Titan, that's right. Yeah.
So
I was spinning in my head. I'm like, come on.
So I get on there and we go on this traveling tour. And we're all over the U.S. and
TV, fame,
all that shit. And that ends up canceling. So it was from there that he had that. Then he had a WBF. They wanted to consider me for wrestling, which I thought it would have been perfect at because it's just I've always loved wrestling and I think I could have
You would have had a whole persona.
Oh yeah, I would have done the whole thing. But that's right when the steroid stuff hits.
Yeah, well, that's why they got shut down in bodybuilding because those who don't know, their doctor got arrested for prescribing all this gear to all the wrestlers, and Vince is like, shit, I just started a bodybuilding federation, and he just walked back out. He just quietly went step.
He kind of backed out of the room, but
real quick.
So all this is going on. The interesting thing is now here's like the least thing that anybody would ever know out of this. It's so bizarre. Before I got the call to go on the Gladiators audition, I was actually in a bowling league that you would go into to establish an average to go on the Pro Bowlers tour.
10-pin bowling.
Yeah. Believe it or not, it's like obscure stuff nobody knows. I'm actually in this league while I'm in it. I get the call to go to audition, and I'm like, all right, so I go. But I was actually considering being a pro bowler at that point. So I never was able to finish that because I got the Gladiator gig. And joined the tour, went on tour and all that. But talk about a pivotal year of like almost. So now you go full circle. Years later, I'm in California. The Gladiator thing blows up. The wrestling thing, not a great time at that point with all of the steroid allegations and things. That kind of blows up. I go back to competing, in the NPC. So now the next years, I go into that. I'm out in California in the 2000s,
right,
doing my thing. And they're going to do a reboot of the Gladiators, right? And this is when Mike O'Hearn and the second batch of guys, they're going to do this.
He hasn't aged since.
No, he still looks the same. But now, obviously, this is well past my prime to do that stuff at that point. But I'm hosting the Olympia. I got a background as a gladiator, so now they're going to consider me to do the play-by-play. As a commentator on the show on the new Gladiators. Yeah. So I'm like, great. So I go in and I audition and they love me because they like my background as a former gladiator and I got the voice, and they
pro bodybuilder now.
Sure. That. So it comes down to me and Hulk Hogan.
No way.
So, of all people, right? And I'm like, oh boy. And I get the call and they're like, well, they're going to go with Hulk Hogan. You think, right? But which I thought was a mistake though, because it's like, well, no, you got to make the gladiator should be the focal point. Don't make the host. Like he was
Hulk Hogan. Yeah,
listen, I wasn't Hulk Hogan. Bigger. He's Hulk Hogan, right?
He's bigger than life.
Don't make the host a superstar. Make the gladiators a superstar. But anyway, they went that direction, and of course it didn't last because it was a far cry from what the original was.
Yeah.
But you talk about like some just misses like over the years, Tony.
Yeah. So you're out in California, moved to Hollywood, you're getting bit parts in shows and movies, and you did a few things with that, like Malcolm in the Middle. What else?
A lot of commercials. I did commercials for GMC trucks, for just all kinds of
we
Carlos
kinda-
Mencia. I did some
remember you were
stuff.
just
Spike
ev-
TV.
You're just everywhere for a while there. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
The music video,
Well,
or TV commercial, magazine covers.
Music videos.
It's like,
I did a
you
few
know,
of those.
And I think some people, it's just all about winning titles, winning bodybuilding shows. This is where you were smarter than the rest. And credit to you, we could read the play a little bit. Go, you know what? There's other stuff within bodybuilding that can make me a really good living and have longevity, not hurt myself in the meantime. Maybe if I get injured, it's all over. If I put all these other things, it was funny, we were talking yesterday at lunch and you were like, how did you get into all this? I was a junior bodybuilder. It was okay, and there's no coaches or anything back there. We're out in Australia, my training partner was the great late Sonny Smith, my best friend. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to be just this guy driving around in a beat up car, just trying to be the next big thing in bodybuilding. We didn't have the information or anything to do it. I was from a country town. I'm like, I always want to be a promoter,
Smartly.
and I knew that I want bodybuilding to be my life.
Sure.
But maybe I'm not genetically good enough, or maybe I just don't have the facilities, everything to move to California and be a bodybuilder and go over there, living in a car, blowing dudes like I've seen.
We have real similar mentality. Don't always have, but I always thought the same. First of all, I would read books of like Bob Paris had the Gorilla Suit, which is a great book about bodybuilding. But a lot of those guys had that same theme, which was they went for the dream. They were going to go live the dream, and they moved out to California, and they drove out there in some old beat-up junker, and they didn't have 2 dimes in their name, and they slept in their car and all that. And I always thought to myself, you know what? How stupid can you be?
Right.
I never looked at that, Tony, and said to myself, like, wow, look at that. That's determination. And you know what? I always read that and went, what are you, an idiot? Like, why would you?
That's just dumb.
Right? Why would you go out there with no job? You got nowhere to stay. You don't have 2 dimes to rub back to back. I don't know. I don't find that inspiring.
And you've got gear, you've got food, you've got training. It costs a lot to be a fucking pro bodybuilder.
Again, maybe I read it differently than a lot of people. I was not inspired by that. I was actually, kind of went the other way, which is like, you know what? Before I moved out there, I had a title in my pocket of the USA champion. I had a job. I know that sounds strange in the bodybuilding world. I had security. I put away some money, you know what I mean, so I could function and do my thing. I got an apartment. Do things right, But 2002 was another pivotal moment where I took second to Marcus Rule at the Night of the Champions, affectionately known as Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
And damn Marcus. Of course, I got to run up against the best Marcus of all time. Shows up at the Night of the Champions. But anyway, qualifies me for the Olympia. I did very well that year. I took a second at the Southwest. I took, then I go to the Olympia stage, and it was that moment standing next to Ronnie Coleman because he would call us out in order alphabetically. So I'm always next to Ronnie. Got Cicherillo, Coleman. It's like, oh, here we go. And somewhere there, Tony, a big light bulb appeared over my head, and I looked at Ronnie and I thought to myself, something tells me I'm not going to ever beat this guy.
Was that 2002? 02.
Something deep within me, Tony. Something said you're probably not going to beat Ronnie Coleman.
I know a couple of guys who've had this same Ronnie Coleman experience. My business partner, the guy that owns World Gym that I did a show with in Queensland, John Davey. He qualified for the Olympia here at the Australian Pro. Went to the 2003 Olympia.
Yeah.
He went backstage, saw Ronnie take his shirt off, retired that night. Just that.
I had a few more years than me, but it gave me the impetus to know that. I mean, I was always smart enough to know, like, you listen, just can't be your entire life. You got to, again, move the goalposts. What are you good at? Yeah. And I was good at talking to people.
Yeah.
And I would sign with companies like GNC, bodybuilding.com after that. Became their poster boy for about 7 years. But, you're not going to compete for, and again, I'm not beating some of these guys.
But you managed to make more money than most people that were competing, still being relevant
by far.
By far. But I mean, even back then, you were always gainfully employed. You're always the face of something.
Sure.
And then you could see this switch where you're becoming the voice of something.
Right,
and then the Olympia thing happens, and you get better and better at it to the point where you fucking own that space, man. And full credit to you.
I had a fork in the road in 2006, which was going to be my last year competing. I went to the Masters World. It was the Masters Olympia. They kind of reinvented it to the Masters World Championships.
What year was it?
This is 2006.
Yeah.
And Big Steve was putting it on in New York. So I had just turned 40. Never really had any ambitions of competing into my 40s. But I said, you know what? We can make a whole thing out of this. And we did. We did this War for the World's DVD series from bodybuilding.com. So they followed me around for 12 weeks as I was getting ready. I go in the show. I end up winning the show, which is that right there. Tony, I don't know if they can get that on camera.
Nice.
So I win the show. Thank you. Good night, everybody. Done. Robin Chang catches up with me, somewhere afterwards. He says, "Hey, man, great job, champ. Congratulations." He said, "So what do you want to do?" So what do you mean? He said, "Well, this win qualifies you for the Olympia. So do you want to go win it or do you want to host it?" And I was like, I think I'm going to host it. So, but you know what? If I had
one of the few people to do the full circle of the conversation, went out on top on your own terms.
I did.
Just knew when it was time to walk away.
Well, again,
you're not getting any better,
which
right?
was a smart. Yeah, I can't
It's a
do any
smart
better
move,
than
dude.
this, right?
Dude, you're about to host your 20th Olympia Bowl.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Here we are 20 years later now.
Man, and you've been through two of the big milestone ones. I mean, the 50th and the 60th. I mean, that 50th.
Interesting. So I've now been a part of three, even though I wasn't on stage. The 40th, the 50th, and the 60th.
There you go.
Which is kind of wild when you think about it.
50th, remember they got all the Olympia champions.
That was difficult. Not just for me, but just in terms of logistics. Getting everybody together, getting them all, there, Arnold, obviously is Arnold, he could be anywhere in the world. We're filming a movie. So that was special.
Right. When Arnold comes in, everyone else can just fit in with that schedule.
And we did. I mean, we had a lot of moving pieces, and that was probably one of the most challenging Olympias ever because they were filming it.
This is 2015.
I mean, yes. So that was the 50th anniversary. I mean, this was a big deal, right? And they're filming it. They're going to film this thing. It's going to be aired on TV for the first time, really. Yeah. And so we changed up some things. Robin Chang and his crew, they really went out of their way to put this production together. But I'm used to a certain format, as you are. Well, all of a sudden, I got to come out of the center of the stage. Well, you can't come out with a bunch of papers in your hands, right? So, you got to come out. There's no teleprompter. There's no nothing. I'm just on my own. So I got this whole opening rehearsed. And there's certain things I have to say, and there's certain things I got to do.
In order, yeah.
And then, they were supposed to come out in order, but Arnold wasn't even there yet. Talk about the earpiece. So, there was some scrambling there, but I thought we did a great job. There was commercials we had, there was all this stuff, and at the end of the day, they never aired it. So it was all this prep and all this stuff, and I'm thinking to myself, oh no, you got to be kidding me! Like they had some problem at the.
How many Olympia champions were on that stage? Can you remember?
We had almost all of them back then. So
only
the 50th,
I think,
had almost everybody.
Yeah.
Because Larry Scott I met backstage. I actually had Larry
Scott was there.
So I collect some bodybuilding memorabilia. I got a decent collection. Rudy's got a huge collection in Italy. It's second to none. But I have the original programs from the first and second Olympia, 65 and 66. The actual programs. And I had Larry Scott sign them because he's on the front of both of them. So that was a special moment. And I had Joe sign one of the magazines that I had. One of the Muscle and Fitnesses has got him on the cover. So that was cool. But yeah, that was a very special one because that was really the last time that we saw. I think it was almost all the Olympians. 40th had everybody. 50th, I think we may have lost one or two.
Sergio, maybe.
Yeah, I'd have to actually go back.
Yeah.
But what a special, I got Lee Haney, I got Samir out there, I got Dorian, I got Betty Weeder was out there. God bless her. Still doing well. So Joe, Ben, of course, we lost them along the way, but there's been so many great moments, Tony.
Yeah, cool. I've got to show you some stuff I've collected over there when we're done. I've got some really cool old posters and some really nice stuff Ben sent me right before he passed and some cool shit. So you go on, you've become the voice of bodybuilding. Here we are.
Here I am. 20
years later, we're still doing it, still, been around the world. And it's kind of been cool, times we've been traveling, whether it's been with an Arnold Classic in, I don't know where we were, in Brazil, you were down there, I think with Black Skull, I was down there, emceeing in a different language to what everyone was listening to, which is a challenge because you've got a guy here interpreting.
Yeah, my Portuguese is as good as yours. So.
Right. Well, I remember I did it once with one year, and I had a lot of Brazilian friends. They said he's Brazilian, his Portuguese is terrible. People listen to you in English. I'm like, well, I wouldn't have known. No. And the crowd down there was crazy. It was always fun. Whether it was you and me and Jay or Branch, whatever. Just sometimes, my greatest memory has been on a rooftop bar in the other side of the world where we all come together like these traveling vagrants, smoking cigars, just having a rum or a whiskey and talking a little shit. It's been an incredible ride, Bob, and you say you look at Jim and it gave us all a shot, You know, the Olympia people that gave you a shot, and the changing of the guard over the
I've
Olympia.
survived 3 administrations. I started
Took
with
the
Weider.
words out of my mouth. Yeah.
Started with Weider, with Robin Chang, and many years of success. Robin was just tremendous. AMI.
Yeah. Which was Pecker.
Yeah, David Pecker again. Robin Chang, still continuing on with that, and now Jake Wood and a new administration. So I've kind of survived.
I mean, and credit to Jake. I mean, he came along at the right time. I think the Olympia really needed a change and needed someone. And then when the pandemic hit, if it wasn't for Jake, the Olympia would not have had that continuity. The fact that he somehow
we wouldn't have had a show.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, listen, he had every reason on this earth to and literally Jake and Dan Solomon and their crew really went out of their way to make it happen. And you really got to give Jake a lot of credit.
Absolutely, because in time when we look back at that could have been a pivotal moment where we lost it.
Well,
one person
and
said
I know
no.
you, and I know you've been on the receiving end of this, Tony. You've done stuff knowing you were going to take a loss.
Yeah.
Years ago, thank God. But you did it, and I know you've done it. And you did it for the good of the sport. You did it because you love the sport and you love the athletes and all that. And Jake was very much the same. Listen, he knew this was not going to be a profitable venture during COVID when everything in the world was pretty much shutting down. But they were able to make it happen, and we were able to continue on. Now into our 61st year or so. You got to give it up for Jake and Dan for that.
Absolutely.
And then we'll see what the vision is going forward. But I always like to give thanks where it's due, and I appreciate them giving me the opportunity to be able to do what I do. It's still the best seat in the house. You know that.
I know it better than anyone.
You can't beat it. You know what I mean? It's just a great feeling, and to come out there in front of thousands of fans and worldwide. I mean, it's literally given me my identity in this game. So, my thing, as I said, the goalposts kind of move, and if you're smart enough to see where they go, you could take that field goal shot.
Yeah.
My thing wasn't going to be Mr. Olympia. At some point, that changed, and then I had, the USA became my Olympia. Just the fact I was finally able to turn pro and realize that dream, and then go from there. But then see where your talent lies. And my talent wasn't going to be in being Mr. Olympia. It was going to be being the voice of the Olympia.
Yeah, and I've watched all that happen from when you were an amateur, when you turned pro, and we go, this guy's got something beyond bodybuilding, and we clicked from day one. And I don't know how many times I've been backstage with you or somewhere around the world just talking shit and busting balls.
We're trying to grab a smoke out in the freezing weather.
Yeah, right.
but we always had fun.
Just having a laugh at everyone else's expense. And sometimes you don't even know I do this because I'm backstage, and to me that's the greatest spot to be at the Olympia. I'm like, I've got a pass that says access all areas, and thanks to JM and the team have always given me that, and I get free run. I get to interview the athletes first. They always come to me first. We've got a really good sort of thing.
After I either destroy their dreams or give their brains milk, you get them.
I get them. But quite often I'll just go side stage and watch you work, and it's almost like sharing that moment with you, just watching you in your glory. And not many people get it because we've got to do some pretty cool shit. And I stand there sometimes, I see those lights come up. I always watch your opening. Yeah. I'm right there in the wings, just watching you light that place up. And I go, no one knows how much pressure you're under.
No.
You've probably got no idea what you're going to say. I mean, I know me as an MC, I never rehearse my opening line. I'm like, I want to wonder what's going to come out of my mouth. And I just keep myself busy until I get a microphone. I'm like, here goes.
You've got some bullet points, right? That you're going to thank some sponsors and some things you have to say, which is
but
great.
It's the ad-lib stuff
but
that's
fun. But then you're going to go with the flow. You got to feel the audience. You got to see where they're going. I like to see what they're thinking, because you want to involve.
Well, it's called reading the temperature.
You're reading the room.
Because
how we call it.
Reading the room, reading the temperature.
But you want them involved. You want to bring the audience in.
And sometimes you go in thinking, oh, I'm going to be so funny today, and you get a straight bad audience that just wants the facts. And sometimes you go the other way. You go in all factual and all formal, and you get your best tie.
Well, things have to present themselves. Listen, you're not up there to do a comedy skit. I was talking earlier about maybe things you should or shouldn't do as an MC. You don't want to be the focal point. You make the athlete, but you also have to read the room, and you have to, when things come up and maybe there's something there, then you go with it. But you're not up there to do a comedy skit either.
You're not. But sometimes we can be really good comedians, and we've got the greatest way out in the world. Because if you're a comedian and you bomb, you're fucked, right? Everyone's not laughing. If I do a bad joke and it bombs, or you do a dad joke and it bombs,
I'm not a comedian, folks.
You just go back to the show. Our next competitor, and everyone forgets.
But I like to try to get to the audience to kind of see who they like, or who they're rooting for, because then you can get a good feel. Intros are going to always be up there and on top, of course. Everybody gets a great intro. Because again, you want to feature and highlight these athletes. Of course, they're
Give
the
them
best,
a shot. Give them a
best in the
moment.
world.
Yeah.
But you also want to make the audience feel like they're a part of what's going on, like they're not sitting there watching a movie.
Yeah.
So I like when we have like celebrities or people, we can go to, or I can go to them. We got the People's Champ Award that we go to the audience to see who they like.
Right.
So I
It's
like
pretty
the
cool.
interaction.
Now tell me this. Talk about celebrities. We've had some fucking cool people backstage at the Olympia. I mean, I'm backstage. I've got to meet The Rock. I've got to meet Hulk. I've got to meet Randy Couture. Well, I've been drunk with him many times. But Shaquille O'Neal that one
Big
year.
Shaq,
Big Shaq. Who have been the highlights for you?
Well, Dave Bautista, because we're personal friends. I've known him for many, many years, so it was great having him and Titus O'Neil on stage.
Do you know he trained here out at the boxing ring?
Really?
One year he was here with WWE.
Wow.
And he went out to that ring and he was thrashing
There's a
those
reason they call him
bags.
the Animal.
He nearly tore my bags up. I'll never forget it.
And he's really transitioned. He is a bona fide Hollywood star.
Yeah. Well, same as John Cena. He came here every year.
Cena, I met when he was working the front desk at
Gold's,
Gold's.
you did? You knew him then?
Yeah, and when he was literally just getting ready to go to wrestling school. So that's how far we go back. The Rock, again, I used to see at Gold's all the time. We would train or go out to a couple of the clubs together. He was a wrestling star, but he hadn't been like a movie star yet.
You went out drinking at clubs with The Rock.
Yeah, I did.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, Dwayne was very cool, and he had his cousin there who looks almost just like him, who does all the stunts.
Yeah, I've heard about it.
Was great to meet him because he was a character.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're built very similar. They got that Samoan. He's big like him, 6'4", 6'5". But I've had Stone Cold on stage. Again, we've had. I'm just trying to think of all the super. Yeah. We had Stallone at the Olympias.
Yeah.
Big Brian Shaw and Shaq. Having those two monsters there was great. So yeah, it's interesting to see because celebrities, especially wrestlers, because the old saying goes. Every wrestler started out as a bodybuilder, and every bodybuilder wanted to be a wrestler. Yeah, and you just had to find which, if you were like the Ultimate Warrior, Jim Hellwig. He started out as an NPC competitor. Actually, the '86 juniors, even though I didn't do very well, I think he was like third in the heavyweights.
Triple H,
another great, and he was a lot of fun. I go back, to him. Yeah. Stephanie, his wife, obviously now. When I was at McMahon's house shooting that thing, she was a little kid. She was like. 6 years old, her and her brother Shane.
You know what? I'll share one cool one with you. I was at the Arnold. It was the year that Triple H got his Lifetime Achievement Award, and I was emceeing the show. So I got to introduce him on stage. There's a picture of me here somewhere holding the fucking plate that he got from Arnold. And I passed it to Arnold. Arnold pushed me out of the shot. That was cool. Anyway, I went back to the Hilton where we all, Arnold had that big long table. And he came up to me, he goes, Tony, he always remembered me from when he trained here. And all the wrestlers would go into my city gym, as I said before, that was sort of like close to the Crown where they all stayed. But he said, no, all the bodybuilders told me they've got to come up here to Brunswick. And I gave him the full tour. He always remembered it. Anyway, I gave him a bunch of merch, which I'm going to do with you in a minute. And he took it back. Anyway, forward wind to 2019 when he got his Lifetime Achievement Award. And he said, Tony, I want you to meet my wife, Stephanie. I'm like, whoa, how fucking cool is this? Because I was a wrestling nut, right?
Yeah, sure.
I grew up with Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant. I'm like, oh, my God, Stephanie. I said, so nice to meet you. She goes, and she said, this is Tony from the gym in Australia. Like, he's almost embarrassed that she didn't know me. And she goes, oh, my God. And she goes, my hand. She goes, our daughters have been wearing your shirts since the day you got back. They've worn them as 90s. They've worn them out playing. Great, and they've still got them to this day. And I'm like,
she sees the name for you. Now she gets to meet the guy.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That's fantastic.
Like, you see your shirts on famous people around the world. It's kind of pretty fucking cool. Very cool. What a ride, Bob.
What a hell of a ride. Yeah, hopefully there's more coming.
And Pinata, you've been doing some great work with them. Rudy, just another...
Yeah,
they just don't make them like that anymore, man.
Let me tell you, Rudy Pinata is, there's not a lot of us left. And when I say us, I mean people that we've been around. There's almost none of him left. Rudy goes back over 50 years just in Pinata. Yeah. He knows everybody. He's met everybody. He's seen people come up. He's had people there in Italy. If you don't know, Pinata's one of the premier fitness equipment companies in the world, and the only one still that's run by a guy named Mr. Pinata. Yeah. Because there is no Mr. Hammer and there's no Mr. This or that, but there is a Mr. Pinata, and Rudy is just fantastic. Rudy and Eduardo and the whole family. We've been together for some years now. But what a talk about great rides. Talk about great people. Yeah. And now, they're like family to me. I'm out in Italy, I know. 6, 7, 8 times a year. You know, they brought me really into the fold. But what a great company to work for. And Eduardo is just sharp as a tack. His son, who's now the president of the company. So we travel worldwide. Doing the business of bodybuilding.
Yeah. I remember Eduardo coming out here when he was a kid. His dad sent him out here to do his apprenticeship and pump the equipment and go to the expos and all that sort of thing. And
so he'll be at the Olympia. I've got him coming to the Olympia the last 2 years now. And it's just, but yeah, again, when you talk about companies, who you're proud to work for, there's nothing. If Rudy called me tomorrow and says, "Come on out for lunch next Tuesday," I'm on a plane.
Yeah,
I'm coming.
I hear.
I mean, that's how much I respect him, his history. His knowledge, Tony, is you could talk to him for hours because he's got, like we've got old story. Well, imagine him. He's got stories with guys like Sergio and Serge Nubray and Bill Kazmaier and just any, Lee Haney, who was there in Rimini winning the show. He was on stage in the 90s giving out there's pictures of him with Dorian Yates. Raising his hand with Joe Weider on the other side. You talk about a storied history, and it's so great. His memorabilia collection, second to none. He's got stuff from every area you can possibly think of. But
it's on my bucket list is to visit Rudy.
I would listen, on behalf of the Panadas, I would absolutely invite you to come to Italy. Whenever we can get that into your schedule. And Tony, if anybody would appreciate it, you would be the guy.
I'd love to. Honestly, I've admired him. Backstory, when I first opened my gym, I was telling you, in 1994, and I was sleeping on the couch. I had nothing, man. I was broke. I'm fucking broke. And I had this old Jaguar, and it wasn't working real well. And there was a guy, his name was Don Mahoney, and he was a Panada rep. This is in 1994.
Wow,
31 years ago.
Ain't that something?
And he said, "I want to buy that car of yours." He said, "But I don't want to give any money for it because I collect cars." He said, "But I've got this lat pull-down machine from Panada." And I'd heard of Panada. I go, done. I only had 4 possessions in my world. I had a car. I had that, and I had an old Jeep, which I sold to pay a power bill because the power got cut off. I had that. I had a vertical grill, a couch, and a rice cooker. And I traded my fucking car for a piece of Panada equipment, which I think I've still got out in the warehouse.
Was it part of the Fantastic line?
No, it was even before that. This was the original where he did the arcs. There was a lat pull down where it had a cam. There was a plate loaded one. I may still have it.
Wow.
So that's how far I go back with Panada. I've wanted to know Rudy Panada from that day, man.
Bro, I said, you have, on behalf of the Panadas, like I say, I would openly invite you. Whenever we can get that, your schedule.
Well, we've got some great Panada pieces here, which I'm going to show you in the gym. Bob, when I heard you were coming out to Australia, I'm like, I've been trying to get you out here for fucking years. Panada flies you out, and I get you to come and see the world-famous Doherty's gym, which, you've been one of my big supporters forever, as I have with you. We go back a long, long way, but just walking you around the gym today, honestly, it's been the highlight of my year, man.
It's been a pleasure, man. You talk about great gyms, and I see I see some of the biggest gyms because of the position I'm in. But this place is special. I've seen bigger gyms. I've seen some of the biggest gyms in the world in the Middle East.
There's shinier, there's bigger,
Bro, they are state of the art, but they don't have, a lot of them don't have soul.
Heart and soul. You got a community.
They're
heart
beautiful.
And soul.
They're beautiful facilities. They're beautiful fitness facilities or gym, whatever you want. But there's a difference. A gym has to have a feel. Again, we're old school, so we know that. Again, there was gyms that were bigger and better in my area when I grew up. But there was our place, which was Samson's, had a feel. Everybody trained there. It's the place to go. You walk in and you feel like you're a part of. But you know what I mean? The pictures and the memorabilia and just the layout of the gym and this place is up there. Honestly, Tony, this is probably one of the top 3 gyms I've ever seen in my life.
Wow!
Because you take everything. And again, I've seen bigger. I've seen better equipment. I've seen stuff with state of the art. Listen. We have Panada. We call them Panada gyms. They're gyms with just Panada equipment. It's like the Ferrari of the fitness world. I mean, you can't. It's over $1 million of equipment, but it doesn't mean it's got a feel. And I think that's where you've really capitalized, Tony. And again, you've been the man here for years, but this place kicks ass.
Thanks, man. What's the people? I've got members here. From when I first opened in 1994. I've still got, I think, more than 40 original members that we've watched their life, man. We've watched them grow young,
you got to
grow
get them
old,
a
have
special
kids.
gold card or something.
Yeah, we do. I do, yeah. I have a gold card for the good people.
Cool.
Some of them I don't even charge them anymore because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. The loyalty of those people, and this has been their go-to place. No matter what life's thrown at them. And this is what a gym with a community. And I know I feel the same about Steve's gym in New York.
Yeah.
That he's got people that have been there forever, man. And it's, you know what, this has been their safe place, their go-to place when they've had a death in the family, or they've lost their job, or they've lost their partner, or something. They've been diagnosed with something. They just come to the gym, and everything's going to be okay. You know, they come here, and everything's okay again. You know, and that's all I ever wanted to build was not a gym or a business, but a brand and a place. Place that's everyone's. Well, it sounds cheesy as fuck, but we call it the home away from home.
It's true.
I mean, I still spend more time here than I do at home. It's just.
I can see why. I would be doing the same.
Oh, you got to see the cool office, yeah.
And then I'm going to dip into some of that protein-flavored Vegemite that you got out there.
Yeah. You didn't like the Vegemite, did you?
I got to be honest. I gave it a shot, Tone, but my American taste buds.
We're going to go and have some nice Australian steak tonight. Bob, I can't thank you enough for making time to come down to Melbourne to do an interview. I hope you all got to see another side, a little bit more of Bob, because he's a fucking one of the good guys, man, and he's been consistent in this sport. The sport wouldn't be where it is from a level of entertainment and authenticity and integrity without people like Bob Cicherillo. My man.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Bob. Really pleasure to have you on, man. So cool. Thank you. That's it.